An urgent shout for the lady rings out as someone sprints toward the palace. A door is flung open with a panicked cry that something terrible has happened. Frantic maids deliver the dire news that a mysterious letter has just arrived. Sophia Angelique, a gentle blonde noblewoman, becomes the center of a sudden household crisis. A maid fearfully presents Sophia with a dark envelope as the head maid looks on. Sophia's expression pales as she reads the letter, mentioning the feared demon duke. Dark rumors describe Lord Lucien Valenti as a cold and ruthless prince. The black-haired man is portrayed as a merciless warrior who destroys his enemies. Tales suggest he leaves only blood in his wake, sparing absolutely no one. The document reveals Lucien Valenti has officially requested Sophia's hand in marriage. Her servants are convinced the duke must be the savage brute the rumors describe. Fearing for their mistress's life, the maids break down in tears of despair. Sophia offers a nervous smile, though her maids warn that royal proposals are mandatory. A close-up of Sophia's gaze hints at deeper thoughts hidden behind her calm facade. Despite the grim atmosphere, she smiles brightly while holding the ominous wedding proposal. The head maid expresses her deep doubt that such a violent man could ever be gentle. Sophia looks surprised by the intensity of her servant's fear for her well-being. A blonde woman in black enters the room, her face etched with motherly concern. She laments the dreadful news as the room's atmosphere becomes heavy with sorrow. The mother embraces Sophia, crying about sending her daughter to live with a Keeman. Sophia looks away thoughtfully, her mind drifting to a memory from long ago. The scene shifts to a grand castle from years past as his name is mentioned. A young Sophia meets a shy boy hiding behind a taller man's leg. A man's hand pats her head as she is introduced to the bashful boy. With a polite curtsy, young Sophia gives a bright greeting to her new companion. In a sunny garden, she cheerfully asks Lord Lucien to be her friend. The young boy's face turns bright red, completely overwhelmed by her outgoing nature. Sophia reaches out to the hesitant boy, signaling the start of their long history. The two children become constant playmates, running through the palace halls with joy. They spend their days side by side on the floor, sharing books and quiet moments. Their childhood was defined by a deep bond formed through many years spent together. As they grow older, they wander through the gardens while a large frog watches. A sudden leap by the frog causes Sophia to recoil in a moment of fright. She cowers and winces, terrified by the harmless green creature jumping near her. Seeing her fear, young Lucien steps in and catches the frog with his hands. He reassures his friend that she is safe now while holding the creature away. A close look shows his own hand trembling, revealing his secret fear and courage. Sophia looks at him with soft realization, touched by his bravery on her behalf. She grasps his hands tightly, praising him for being so brave and protecting her. Lucien gives a radiant smile, his heart clearly filled with happiness by her words. A carriage rolls down a sunlit path, a rhythmic clatter sounding from the horses. Now, a young woman, Sophia, travels toward the duke's estate in a blue gown. She smiles softly at the passing scenery, seemingly at peace with her new path. Upon arriving, she is awestruck by the peaceful and beautiful landscape of Lucien's domain. Contented farmers work in the golden fields, reflecting a well-governed and happy territory. Sophia's face lights up with wonder at the serene life she sees outside. The carriage wheels grind to a slow halt as they reach the final destination. They arrive at the gates of a majestic mansion where the carriage stops completely. Stepping out of the vehicle, Sophia prepares herself for her reunion with the Duke. Sophia's eyes widen in shock as she is met with an unexpected, icy reception. A heavy silence fills the air as she stands alone before the massive closed doors. Left entirely to her own devices, Sophia looks around with a deeply confused expression. Beads of nervous sweat form as she begins to sense something is terribly wrong here. Her small boots crunch softly against the grass as she cautiously explores the silent estate. She gasps and spins around, finding a tall, dark-clad man looming silently behind her. Sophia's breath hitches as she finally comes face to face with the man she once knew. The black-haired man asks what she is doing there, his red eyes cold and piercing. She flinches and tries to explain that she found no one to greet her arrival. Trembling, she formally introduces herself as Sophia Angelique while he watches her with suspicion. The Duke turns his back, coldly commanding her never to approach this area again. Sophia stands frozen, watching him walk away with a sense of utter disbelief and hurt. A heavy gloom settles over the scene as the Duke continues his distant, silent retreat. She calls out his name, desperate to find a trace of the boy from her past. A hopeful, bright smile briefly returns to Sophia's face as she remembers their childhood bond. Her joy is instantly extinguished by the sudden, lethal swing of a blade being drawn. In a terrifying flash, Lucien has a sharp sword leveled directly at Sophia's slender throat. He offers a single, chilling warning while the cold steel presses dangerously close to her skin. Branding her a nuisance, the black-haired man demands she never speak to him ever again. He finally lowers the weapon, though the air remains thick with his palpable, dark hostility. Terror takes hold of Sophia as she realizes the man before her is a complete stranger. A memory of their youth flickers, showing the two children holding hands in the light. She recalls the radiant, genuine smile the young boy once shared only with her. The present reality is far darker, leaving Sophia trembling under the weight of his hatred. Lucian remains silent, his face partially obscured as he maintains a cold and distant demeanor. He stalks away through the grand hall, leaving Sophia alone in the oppressive, silent mansion. The man pauses for a fleeting moment, his expression unreadable before he continues his departure. Sophia stands in the middle of the courtyard, feeling completely abandoned in this strange place. A heavy thud-thud of her racing heart echoes as she grips her dress in fear. She lets out a confused sound when he suddenly stops and glances back toward her. With a sharp, commanding tone, the black-haired man orders her to follow him inside. Sophia quickly agrees, hurrying to catch up as he leads the way with long strides. They walk across the vast, patterned stone floor, the distance between them feeling like miles. She is left alone in a grand, somber room decorated with funeral-like gray roses. Looking around the library, Sophia realizes the Duke lives in total, desolate isolation here. She sits on the velvet sofa, her hands clasped tightly as she waits in silence. Her blue eyes reflect a deep uncertainty about how she will survive this new life. The silence is broken by a soft creak as a large door begins to open. Sophia starts with surprise as a maid finally enters the room to attend to her. The maid explains that His Grace has requested her signature on an important document. A formal contract and a fountain pen are placed on the desk before the noblewoman. Sophia questions why the signing isn't happening before the emperor as is the usual custom. She looks at the maid in shock, realizing how incredibly one-sided the marriage terms are. A sudden click-click sounds as Lucian appears in the doorway, watching the two women closely. He steps into the room, his presence cold as he asks if she intends to leave. The atmosphere becomes suffocatingly tense as Sophia faces the Duke's unrelenting, red-eyed stare. Lucian dismisses her concerns, stating he must return to the military camp at once. He cruelly declares he has no time for useless things, leaving Sophia feeling utterly humiliated. Her hands white-knuckle her blue gown as she struggles to maintain her composure and dignity. The narrative reveals that refusing this marriage is impossible under the Emperor's absolute military rule. A cold sword's blade rests against a shattered portrait of the distant couple. Sophia Angelique officially seals the mandatory marriage contract with her elegant signature. Sophia glances back at the silent Lucian as he maintains a freezing distance. Tears shimmer in Sophia's eyes as she faces her new, heartless marital reality. Lucian remains unresponsive, his icy red eyes showing no warmth toward his bride. The Duke coldly orders the contract away while a heartbroken Sophia watches him. A single pained tear escapes as Sophia's hope for a warm reunion vanishes. A small black puppy trots through the doorway, breaking the room's oppressive atmosphere. Sophia stares at the unexpected visitor, feeling lost and unsure of her next move. The tiny black puppy looks up at Sophia with a curious, innocent expression. Delight replaces Sophia's sorrow as she realizes she has a new, furry companion. Sophia's curiosity is piqued as she asks the maid for the puppy's name. Hearing that the puppy is currently nameless, Sophia gazes at her friend with interest. A soft, tearful smile returns to Sophia's face as she decides to name him. Woof, the playful puppy yaps as Sophia promises they will live together forever. 5 years pass in a flash, and the grand mansion stands under a clear sky. Now a mature duchess, Sophia conducts formal business with a merchant in her room. The merchant praises Sophia's grace as she examines a lavish collection of new jewelry. Sophia sits poised on the sofa, accompanied by her now fully grown, loyal Doberman. The merchant is stunned by the generous payment as Sophia maintains her noble demeanor. Walking through the floral halls, Sophia embodies the role of a refined, wealthy duchess. Sophia wanders through the silent mansion, lamenting Lucian's 5-year absence from their home. Dark rumors of the Demon Duke's ruthless border conquests continue to haunt the kingdom. Huddled in solitude, Sophia finds no comfort in her husband's terrifying military achievements. To fill the void, Sophia surrounds herself with wine and expensive, glittering adornments. Dressed in dark, regal attire, Sophia becomes the image on a neglected, lonely wife. The air turns freezing as the black-haired Lucian finally returns, looming over the hall. Lucian's piercing red eyes remain cold as he faces his wife after years away.
Sophia welcomes her husband home, politely acknowledging his latest victory with a strained smile.
Without a word, Lucian stalks past his wife, leaving her frozen in utter shock. Sophia's face pales as the weight of her husband's absolute indifference crushes her.
A heavy shadow falls over Sophia as she realizes their relationship remains completely broken.
Sophia stands dejected and alone, while her loyal dog watches her with deep concern. Noticing her companion's worry, Sophia offers a faint smile to her devoted, four-legged friend. At the palace, news spreads of the Duke's overwhelming success in the border conquest. A map shows a red pin marking the latest expansion of the Duke's territory. The blonde emperor is pleased by the news and plans to reward his brother. Wearing golden armor, the blonde emperor gazes out with a look of calm satisfaction. An advisor warns the emperor that Lucian's popularity now threatens the royal throne's stability. A sudden snap sounds as the emperor's fist clenches tightly at the mention of danger. The emperor questions if his own physical weakness makes his subjects favor the duke. Looking over the map, the advisor insists the emperor must produce an heir immediately. Dark suspicions cloud the blonde man's mind as he questions his brother's true loyalty. Amidst a garden of pink roses, the blonde emperor walks with a red-haired woman. The red-haired woman greets him warmly, noting the tension that has kept him away. The emperor offers a soft smile, masking the political turmoil and jealousy within him. They walk side by side through the palace garden, the air filled with blossoming white flowers. Looking closely at him, the red-haired woman asks what is troubling the emperor's heart. The blonde emperor's red eyes narrow with a sudden predatory intensity as he thinks. Bitterness consumes the emperor as he reflects on his brother Lucian's rising fame and power. The red-haired Lilith pensively considers calling a doctor regarding her struggle to conceive. Lilith secretly rejoices, finding it wonderful that Lord Lucian continues to prosper. The narrative describes the brothers supporting the nation while reflecting on children as gifts. A beautiful, blonde-haired baby rests peacefully while wrapped snugly in a yellow blanket. The blonde emperor gazes away, expressing a deep wish for genuine peace and stability. Lilith gazes affectionately at the emperor, offering her warmth during a moment of reflection. She reaches out to touch the emperor's collar, her gesture filled with quiet intimacy. Lilith embraces the emperor amidst blooming roses, inviting him to come closer to her. From a high window, a lonely Sophia watches figures moving through the distant castle courtyard. Sophia remains isolated in the grand mansion as the focus shifts toward palace matters. Lilith recalls the immense pressure the emperor feels regarding his heir and medical concerns. A nervous biting sound reflects Lilith's mounting anxiety as she considers the royal lineage. Lilith consults her maid, Mary, about the Duchess who has remained a complete recluse. Mary somberly confirms that the elusive noblewoman has made no appearances at court. The maid explains that the Duke's wife has never once set foot inside the castle.
Lilith realizes the marriage was finalized in extreme haste with no official respects paid.
Mary notes that 5 years have passed without a single courtesy visit from the Duchess. A dark aura settles as Mary whispers rumors of Lucian aiming for the royal throne. Lilith's eyes widen in shock as Mary suggests the marriage was merely a political shield. Lilith sternly warns Mary against speaking such reckless and dangerous thoughts about the Duke. Lilith maintains her faith, believing Lucian holds the emperor in the highest possible regard. Despite the scolding, Mary remains visibly troubled by the whispers circulating within the palace. Driven by curiosity, Lilith decides she must meet Sophia and resolves to send an invitation. Mary asks if she should prepare a formal tea party to welcome the Duchess. As Mary departs, Lilith wonders if the emperor will join them later that night. Lilith mentions she has an important matter to discuss with the emperor this evening. Mary suggests informing Lord Cluster, the emperor's aide, about her requested private meeting. Lilith asks the maid to relay her wish to see His Highness tonight as well. At the estate, a maid brings a letter to Sophia during her solitary tea. Sophia looks down at her cup, her expression unreadable as she considers her lonely life. Her attention is captured by the news that a letter has arrived from the castle. The elegant envelope is secured with golden wax and a delicate, soft pink ribbon. Sophia examines the fine, handwritten message on the ornate stationery from the royal castle. The letter from Lilith expresses a warm desire for them to support each other. Sophia reflects on her lack of social standing and her past failures in royal etiquette. A faint blush colors Sophia's face as she processes the unexpected kindness in the letter. Sophia recalls the painful reality that no noble wants to associate with the Devil Duke's wife. She feels a sudden surge of emotion at receiving such a friendly and welcoming invitation. A bright vision of the smiling, red-haired Lilith in a sunlit garden fills Sophia's mind.
Sophia clutched the letter tightly to her chest, her face veiled in deep, quiet thought.
Sophia's maid asks what is wrong as Sophia requests a pen and fine stationery. The maid hurries to fulfill the request while Sophia prepares to break her years of isolation. Sophia watches the maid leave, her heart finally stirring with a new sense of hope. Sophia confides in her loyal dog Belle, lamenting the many friends she has since lost. White blossoms frame the hopeful sentiment of forming a wonderful new bond with another. A daydream shows Sophia and Lilith laughing together as if they were true sisters. Sophia's quiet reflection is interrupted by a tall, dark presence looming silently in the doorway. Shock registers in Sophia's wide eyes as she realizes her husband has returned home. The black-haired Lucien stands motionless in his traveling cloak, his red eyes cold and distant.
Sophia politely questions if he requires something, startled by his sudden and unannounced arrival.
Lucien claims he was merely passing by before Sophia asks if he'll return soon.
The black-haired Lucien remains stoic and distant, his red eyes reflecting a cold heart.
Sophia watches her husband's departing back, her expression filled with a lingering, silent longing. Dismissively, Sophia claims the situation no longer concerns her as she turns her gaze away.
Accompanied by her loyal Doberman, Sophia stands alone while her husband continues his cold exit.
With a sudden turn, Lucien leaves a dejected Sophia standing in the middle of the hall.
A close-up reveals Lucien's hardened profile, devoid of any warmth for his neglected wife.
The grand palace exterior is framed by lush white blossoms under a clear, bright sky.
Sharing a rare moment of joy, the red-haired Lilith and Sophia smile warmly at one another.
From a high window, the blonde emperor gazes out at the peaceful palace courtyard below. The emperor's red eyes are clouded with inner turmoil as he remains deep in thought.
Dressed in a fur-lined cloak, the emperor walks through the palace, his presence commanding yet solitary.
The light catches the emperor's sharp features as he prepares to face an unknown intruder.
Entering the room, the blonde emperor politely acknowledges his sudden and unexpected arrival.
Lucien's eyes widen in absolute horror as he discovers a gruesome scene before him.
Gasps fill the air as Lucien finds his brother, the emperor, collapsed and bleeding profusely.
Lucien rushes to the side of his fallen brother, shouting for him to stay conscious.
A maid freezes in terror, dropping her tray as Lucien desperately calls for help.
Crash! The white plate shatters on the floor, scattering treats amidst the growing, horrific tension.
Turning with an urgent cry, Lucien demands that someone immediately summon medical assistance.
The terrified maid screams for the guards, her voice echoing through the blood-stained royal chambers.
Paralyzed by shock, the maid covers her mouth as the weight of the tragedy sinks in. Clang! Knights and a brown-haired aide charge into the room to investigate the frantic disturbance.
Shadows fall over the aide's face as he stares at the scene with mounting suspicion.
A cold, accusatory glare is directed at the Duke as the atmosphere turns dangerously hostile.
The aide openly accuses Lucien of treason, suggesting he attacked the emperor for the throne.
Shocked by the accusation, Lucien realizes he is being branded a fiendish murderer by all.
The aide commands the Duke to drop any weapons and step away from the dying monarch.
Resigned to the unfair suspicion, a sweating Lucien agrees to follow the guard's stern orders. In the palace gardens, a maid rushes toward Lilith and Sophia with an urgent message. Lilith looks up from the tea table, asking what could possibly be so noisy and urgent. Sophia's heart sinks as she notices the maid's pale face and frantic, worried demeanor. The maid whispers the grim news into Lilith's ear, causing her face to turn deathly pale. Thud! Lilith slams her hand against the table in a sudden, violent reaction to the news.
With a grave expression, Lilith informs Sophia that something truly dreadful has just occurred. Tears well in Lilith's eyes as she reveals that the emperor has been brutally attacked. Overcome by the shock, Lilith begins to collapse while Sophia watches in stunned, silent horror. Sophia catches the fainting Lilith, desperately asking if she is all right amidst the unfolding chaos.
Clutching Sophia tightly, a trembling Lilith begs her to stay close and provide some comfort.
Sophia stares blankly as she tries to process the sudden, terrifying turn of royal events. As they lean on each other, a maid watches the two women with an unreadable expression. The maid stands in the shadows, her eyes fixed on the grieving duchess and the lady.
A close-up captures the maid's grim silence as the palace falls into a state of panic.
Standing before the empty throne room, Sophia and Lilith gaze at the lingering bloodstains.
The aide explains the emperor's relocation while knights lead a shackled Lucien away in silence. Frantic with worry, the red-haired Lilith demands to know if the emperor will survive.
Sophia's eyes fill with dread as she sees her husband surrounded by armed royal guards. Lucien coldly orders Sophia to leave immediately, refusing to meet her terrified, questioning gaze. Walking past his wife, Lucien realizes he has fallen into a perfectly executed, deadly trap. Sophia is left frozen in shock, unable to believe her husband is being arrested for treason.
An urgent shout echoes as the brown-haired aide rushes forward with a mysterious item. Holding a purple vial aloft, the aide loudly proclaims it was found among Sophia's belongings.
A sinister purple liquid glows within the ornate glass vial, casting an ominous light.
Lilith confronts a bewildered Sophia, demanding to know the truth about the incriminating poison. The aide sternly forbids Sophia from leaving, while the black-haired Lucian watches the scene unfold. Lucian's crimson eyes narrow in silent contemplation as he absorbs the weight of the accusation.
Protesting her innocence, the blonde-haired Sophia struggles against the firm grip of the royal guards.
The aide coldly insists on the search, promising a hollow apology only if her innocence is proven. Trapped and defenseless, Sophia stares ahead with wide eyes, her world suddenly crumbling around her. Lucian watches in agony as his wife is dragged away, lamenting that she was ensnared in his downfall. Thick ropes bite into Lucian's wrists as he lets out a guttural cry of pure defiance. A heavy blow strikes the Duke, the impact punctuated by a sharp, violent thud sounding. Surrounded by blades, the black-haired Lucian glares at his captors during the frantic call for his arrest. From the floor, Lucian gazes back at Sophia as she is restrained by the unyielding knights. Sophia's face is etched with a profound, quiet sorrow as she witnesses her husband's brutal treatment.
A haunting memory flickers of a kinder Lucian reaching out to her amidst a sea of white blossoms.
Sophia's blue eyes shimmer with the intensity of her memories and the pain of the present. In a past life, a desperate flight begins as footsteps echo rapidly across the palace floors. Sword in hand, Lucian leads Sophia through the grand hall in a final, doomed attempt to escape.
Lucian shields his wife with his own body, wondering why such cruelty has targeted them both. Blood sprays through the air as a blade finds its mark, ending their hope of survival. Collapsed on the floor, a dying Lucian apologizes for dragging Sophia into his tragic fate. The shadow of the guillotine looms large, representing the inevitable end of the plotted treason. Despair fills the air as Sophia begs to proclaim their innocence before time runs out. With a look of resignation, Lucian softly declares that all efforts to save themselves are pointless. A radiant vision appears of the couple standing together in a world finally free of conflict. Laughing joyfully in the sunlight, Sophia reflects on the words she left unsaid in their final moments. A gentle hand brushes against her face as Sophia whispers a final, heartbreaking farewell to her lord. Surrounded by blooming roses, the couple shares a last, tender kiss as Lucian confesses his love. Reality shatters as a knight tears Sophia away, her screams for Lucian lost in the chaos. A hand reaches out in vain as the weight of their unfair tragedy finally settles. The blood-stained blade of the guillotine stands as a grim monument to their swift, trialless execution. Dressed in tattered rags and shackles, a hollow Sophia reflects on her life of silent suffering. Her gaze fixates on the void, her blue eyes reflecting a soul that has long since given up. A final tear falls as she prays for another life where they can truly be happy together. Gasp! Sophia bolts upright in her bed, her heart racing as she questions the horrific nightmare. Trembling, the blonde noblewoman realizes that the execution was merely a vivid and terrifying dream. Her fear melts into confusion as she is greeted by the enthusiastic wagging of her dog, Belle. Sophia stares in disbelief at the tiny puppy, wondering why her large Doberman is suddenly so small. Looking at the familiar carvings of the door, Sophia realizes that time has somehow turned back. A maid enters the room, asking the lady what she would like to have for her morning meal. Trembling with uncertainty, Sophia asks the maid exactly how long it has been since her arrival. The maid looks puzzled, clarifying that Sophia only just arrived at the estate on the previous day. Stunned by the revelation, Sophia realizes she has been given a second chance to change her fate. At a distant military camp, blue and white tents stand silent under the early morning light. The black-haired Lucian sits up in his simple cot, his expression uncharacteristically alert and troubled. Stepping out of his tent, Lucian demands an immediate update on the current battlefield situation. A knight reports a tense stalemate, noting the enemy's reluctance to engage in open combat. Checking his silver pocket watch, Lucian listens as his subordinate explains the opposition's cautious waiting game. Deciding to return home, Lucian entrusts the camp to his knight while he prepares for his departure. A knight stands at attention, saluting as he confirms his orders with a sharp response. The landscape streaks past in a blur of intense speed as a horse gallops wildly. Leaning forward with grim determination, the black-haired Lucian urges his horse toward the duchy. The grand estate stands proud and silent under a vast, cloud-dusted blue sky. Sitting before a lavish spread, the blonde Sophia realizes she has returned to her first day. Wagging its tail with pure joy, the small puppy Belle showers Sophia with heart-filled affection. Sophia gazes across the ornate dining hall, noting how perfectly every detail matches her memory. soft morning light illuminates the quiet, wood-paneled corridors of the duchy's magnificent interior. Trembling, Sophia clutches her neck as she recalls the phantom pain of her past execution. A haunting vision of the guillotine looms, representing the tragic fate she must now avoid. Sophia's eyes widen in realization, her hand resting against her throat in lingering shock. Looking down at the playful puppy, Sophia whispers Belle's name with a mixture of disbelief. Perched on her seat, Sophia watches the tiny dog, still struggling to process her miraculous return. A warm, genuine smile lights up Sophia's face as she enjoys a fleeting moment of peace. Sophia turns toward her maid, her mind racing with the weight of her secret second chance. The orange-haired maid looks back with a start, her face etched with wide-eyed, comical surprise. Oof, Sarah trips and falls flat on her face, prompting an urgent shout from Sophia. Sophia leans forward with concern, asking the clumsy Sarah if she has sustained any injuries. Tears well in Sarah's eyes as she laments her own perceived hopelessness while apologizing profusely. Standing beside the despondent, kneeling maid, Sophia looks down with a soft, knowing expression. Sophia laughs gently, teasing the orange-haired Sarah for being just as clumsy as always. Startled by the sudden familiarity, Sarah asks Sophia how she could possibly know her name. Panic flashes in Sophia's blue eyes as she realizes she has accidentally revealed her future knowledge. A close-up captures the intensity in Sophia's gaze as she searches for a plausible excuse. Sophia quickly claims she heard someone else mention Sarah's name earlier that morning. Sarah is genuinely touched that her new mistress took the time to remember her name. A faded memory surfaces of Sophia holding a dying Lucian during the horrors of the coup. Sophia looks down at her hands, feeling the crushing weight of the tragedy she must prevent. Thump, thump. Sophia's heart pounds against her ribs, echoing the terrifying tension of her secret mission. Tears shimmer in Sophia's blue eyes as the overwhelming emotions of 2 lifetimes collide. A final tender kiss shared with Lucien lingers in her mind, fueling her resolve to change. Framed by white blossoms, Sophia's face is a portrait of profound grief and newfound determination. Sophia wipes her eyes, telling a worried Sarah she just had a momentary sad recollection. Sarah watches her mistress with a silent, concerned look, unsure of how to offer comfort. Dong! The grand clock chimes the hour, marking the beginning of a crucial turning point. Sophia and Sarah look toward the doorway as the sounds of the mansion stir with life. Rap rap, a rhythmic knocking at the ornate wooden doors signals the arrival of a visitor. A maid enters the sunlit room to announce that a traveling merchant has requested an audience. Sophia walks toward the parlor, confirming to herself that the timeline remains perfectly intact. Seated across from the brown-haired merchant, Sophia prepares to handle the man's rare offerings. The merchant holds open a case, marveling at the sheer size and rarity of the ruby necklace. Tapping her finger on the table, Sophia displays her knowledge of the gem's limited northern origins. Sophia stares ahead in a daze, stunned by how accurately the merchant's words match her memory. Several cases of glittering jewelry lay open, representing the extravagant spending of her previous life. Sitting elegantly on the sofa, Sophia reflects on the impossible miracle of her return. Determined to survive, the blonde noblewoman prepares to make choices that will alter her destiny. A haunting thought echoes through her mind about the promises made for a next life. A close-up of Lucian's face appears in her mind, a phantom of the man she loved. The merchant breaks the silence, asking if the Duchess is feeling well after her long pause. With a firm look, Sophia apologizes to the merchant, ready to break the cycle of tragedy. Sophia reflects on her true desires amidst a backdrop of white blossoms. Sarah and Alfred are startled as their mistress hurries through the manor. Determined to change her fate, Sophia walks with her loyal puppy, Belle. A resolute expression crosses Sophia's face as she plans her next move. Sophia gathers Sarah and Alfred, standing with purpose in the grand hall. Exploring the estate, Sophia and Sarah consider decorating the rooms with fresh flowers. Looking around with a critical eye, Sophia suggests replacing the heavy curtains next. The heavy doors swing open suddenly, revealing the dark silhouette of Lord Lucian. Surprise flickers in the room as Sophia and Sarah witness the Duke's arrival. Lucian looks uncharacteristically flustered, a faint blush creeping across his stoic features. Ignoring pleasantries, Lucian demands Alfred produce the official marriage contract immediately. Learning the document is en route to the castle, Lucian orders its return. A shadow falls over Lucian's face as he reflects grimly on the impending marriage. Sophia stands frozen, her heart sinking as she senses her husband's sudden rejection. Trembling with confusion, the blonde noblewoman asks Lucian exactly what he intends to do. The atmosphere in the hallway turns frigid as Lucian turns his back on everyone. Alfred reports with worry that the messenger likely reached the royal castle by now. Turning toward Sophia, Lucian curtly commands his wife to follow him at once. Fear and uncertainty cloud Sophia's eyes as she asks where he is taking her.
Lucian's gaze is sharp as he confirms their destination is the king's castle.
Without hesitation, Lucian declares his intent to tell his father to cancel the wedding.
Shock paralyzes Sophia as the very foundation of her second life starts to crumble. Sophia reminds Lucian that he was the one who initiated their union with a letter.
The memory of the signed contract surfaces, proof of the commitment they once shared. Desperate, Sophia insists she has finally made up her mind to be his wife.
She calls him selfish for trying to retract his proposal after forcing her hand.
Surrounded by an aura of thorns, Lucian coldly asks if she has finished speaking.
With a sharp, sudden thud sounding, Lucian turns away, leaving Sophia in his wake.
Beside her mistress, the small puppy Belle lets out a quiet, soulful whimper. Sophia recalls seeing this icy, distant expression on Lucian's face many times before. A hazy memory flickers of a younger, more melancholic Lucian lost in his thoughts.
Despite his coldness, Sophia believes the kind man she loves still exists within him.
Lucian's red eyes burn with intensity, betraying the inner turmoil he struggles to hide. Standing tall among the flowers, Sophia reaffirms her identity as Lord Lucian's true wife. A bead of sweat rolls down Lucian's cheek as her persistence begins to rattle him. He stubbornly refuses to acknowledge her claim, noting the contract is with the king. Lucian vows to withdraw the document himself, determined to sever their forced connection.
He grumbles that she wasn't this stubborn as a child, while Sophia huffs indignantly.
Sophia is certain the original proposal letter was intended for her and her alone. Lucian remains tense, his expression a mask of frustration and hidden, painful concern.
Sophia realizes that avoiding this marriage could technically save her from her past execution.
A horrific vision flashes of Lucian being arrested, caught in the web of a conspiracy. A sharp grip sounding as Sophia clutches her chest, terrified of losing him again. Impatiently, Lucian asks if the conversation is over because he has pressing business elsewhere.
With a deliberate, annoyed huff sounding, Sophia turns her back on the stubborn Duke.
The blonde woman is caught off guard by a sudden, unexpected movement behind her.
A firm, quick grab sounding as Lucian's hand suddenly seizes Sophia's slender arm. Without a word, Lucian begins to drag his bewildered wife toward the manor doors. Eek! Sophia lets out a startled cry as Lucian comically pushes her outside. Standing in the courtyard, Sophia looks back in disbelief at her husband's erotic behavior. Lucian begs Sophia to leave, but the blonde noblewoman defiantly refuses to return home. Thud, the heavy wooden door slams shut, leaving a stunned Sophia alone in the hallway. Sophia pounds her fists against the door, demanding the return of her personal belongings. A silent sparkle flickers against the wood, signaling a cold response from within the room.
Oof, 2 heavy trunks are unceremoniously tossed out of the doorway at the startled Sophia.
Reaching out, Sophia examines the 2 suitcases that have been thrown onto the stone floor.
Sophia realizes with a start that the items tossed out do not actually belong to her. Fuming with irritation, the blonde woman's face contorts into a comically angry expression. Clearly, being evicted from her own room was not on her to-do list today. Sophia raises her arms in defiance, shouting her vow to never leave the Duke's estate. The scene shifts to the opulent white and gold corridors of the royal palace. An aide informs the blonde-haired crown prince that a messenger has delivered the marriage contract. The crown prince reviews the document, noting that Lucian intends to marry without a ceremony.
A beautiful portrait of Sophia captures her elegance as the chosen bride of the Duke.
Clad in a red and black suit, the blonde crown prince looks on with curiosity. He recalls a bright memory of the young Sophia and Lucian together as children. A knowing smile touches the crown prince's lips as he finds the situation quite amusing. Seated at his desk, the prince decides to send his congratulations and invite them to court.
Clasping his hands, the crown prince expresses his sincere hope to meet the couple soon.
Sunlight bathes the palace hallway as the prince considers Sophia's fearsome reputation. The aide breaks into a nervous sweat, clearly intimidated by the mention of the Duchess. Surrounded by flowers, the prince chuckles while his aide reflects on the intensity of both nobles. Under the moonlight, the black-haired Lucian sits alone, focusing on sharpening his blade. Standing on the balcony, Lucian gazes out into the night, his thoughts a guarded secret. Sophia huddles near the estate's grand fountain, accompanied only by her discarded trunks. Shivering uncontrollably, the blonde woman clutches her arms as the night air turns frigid. Lucian's dark silhouette looms over Sophia as he leads her through the stone courtyard.
Sophia exhales a puff of white mist as she struggles against the biting cold.
Startled, Sophia looks up with wide, questioning eyes as a figure approaches in the darkness. Sophia peers into the shadows, nervously asking who is lurking near the fountain.
A symbolic montage bridges the chapters, capturing the ethereal beauty of the story's world.
Still huddled by the spraying water, Sophia shivers as her breath mists in the air.
A vision of the small puppy Belle flickers in Sophia's mind alongside Lucian's intense gaze. Sophia recalls her desperate shouting at the closed door, a memory etched in white light.
Wincing from the cold, Sophia buries her face in her arms to find some warmth. A close-up reveals Sophia's watering eyes as she endures the harsh nightly elements. The full moon illuminates the palace as a mysterious silhouette approaches the shivering Duchess.
Dark, leafless branches sway against the starry night sky, adding to the somber atmosphere.
Sarah hurries toward her mistress, carrying a massive fluffy fur blanket to ward off the chill.
Sophia's blue eye widens in surprise as she realizes her loyal maid has found her.
Looking concerned, the orange-haired Sarah pauses to assess the state of her mistress.
Sarah wraps the heavy fur around Sophia, who smiles gratefully for the sudden warmth.
Sarah watches her mistress with a look of deep sympathy and concern.
Sophia reassures Sarah that her presence and the blanket are enough, telling her to return inside. Clasping her hands, Sarah timidly suggests that Sophia should finally come inside for the night. Sarah mentions that Lord Lucian is currently in the room but will depart by morning.
Sophia imagines the luxury of a warm bedroom, but quickly dismisses the tempting thought.
Gripping the fur blanket, Sophia explains she cannot risk Sarah being scolded by the Duke. Sarah refuses to leave and sits beside Sophia, determined to share the cold night.
A comical loading symbol appears over Sophia as she processes the maid's unexpected loyalty. A vision of the fearsome, red-eyed Lucian appears as they discuss the Duke's imposing presence. Huddled together, Sophia realizes that the rumored devil might not be so terrifying.
Smiling gently, the blonde noblewoman agrees with Sarah's assessment of the Duke. Surrounded by shimmering light, Sophia resolves that she cannot simply abandon her new life.
Lucian's crimson eyes flash with an unreadable intensity as he confronts his inner conflict.
A sudden movement catches their attention as the tall silhouette of Lord Lucian reappears.
Sophia and Sarah gasp in unison, startled by the Duke's unexpected presence in the courtyard.
Standing stoically in the night, Lucian stares down at the shivering women with cold indifference.
Looking down from above, the Duke curtly orders his wife to return to the mansion.
A wave of shock and relief washes over Sarah and Sophia at his sudden command.
As Lucian turns to leave, Sophia and her maid remain stunned by the fountain.
Looking up with a pained expression, Sophia asks her husband why he remains so stubborn.
Lucian's face is a mask of stoicism, hiding the deep turmoil swirling behind his gaze.
Clasping her hands, Sophia brightly declares her simple desire to find happiness alongside him.
The black-haired Duke remains silent, his red eyes fixed on the determined blonde woman.
With a heavy step sounding, Lucian urges her inside before the night becomes more unpleasant.
Overjoyed by his small mercy, a radiant smile breaks across Sophia's face amidst sparkling stars. Sophia shouts a joyful thank you as she watches her husband's retreating figure. A sharp stumble sounding as Sophia's feet lose their grip on the cold stone floor.
Gasping, Sophia begins to fall, her blue eyes wide as the Duke quickly reacts.
A firm, protective catch sounding as Lucian sweeps Sophia into his arms before she hits the ground.
Locked in a close embrace, the couple shares a moment of intense, silent connection. Trembling slightly, Sophia looks up at the Duke and whispers her sincere gratitude.
A gentle, lingering touch sounding as Lucian's hand rests firmly against his wife's waist.
Releasing her, Lucian avoids her gaze and begins to walk toward the manor alone.
Sophia calls out one last time, watching him disappear into the shadows of the estate.
Dragging her heavy suitcase, Sophia follows her husband, vowing to reclaim her place by his side.
Reunited inside, Sophia greets her beloved puppy Belle with open arms and a wide smile.
Petting the excited black dog, the blonde Duchess whispers how much she missed her loyal companion.
A soft sneeze sounding as Sophia realizes the cold night air has finally taken its toll.
Approaching the fireplace, Lucian finds Sophia huddled with Belle, his expression remaining guarded.
Extending a delicate porcelain cup, the Duke commands Sophia to drink the warm tea. Holding the tea, Sophia is surprised as Lucian grants her freedom to do as she pleases.
Sophia asks directly if his gesture means he finally accepts her as his true wife.
Lucian tenses, his profile revealing a hint of the frustration he feels toward their union.
The fire crackles as Lucian indifferently tells her she may change the mansion however she likes.
Turning away, the Duke clarifies that his permission only stands if she stops involving him.
A shadow of sadness falls over Sophia's face as she processes his harsh rejection.
Surrounded by white blossoms, Sophia softly reaffirms her commitment to building a happy future.
A glimpse of a past, smiling Sophia is reflected in the dark surface of her tea. Holding the cup with elegance, the Duchess stoically accepts the challenge of her cold marriage.
Lucian glances back one last time, his gaze lingering on the woman he tries to push away.
With a quiet rustle sounding, Lucian leaves the room, leaving Sophia alone in the library. Looking downcast, Sophia reflects on the long, difficult path she must walk to reach his heart. The scene shifts abruptly to a grand, ornate door handle in a distant location. A crash sounding as a furious, mustached man stands amidst the wreckage of a broken mirror.
His face contorted with rage, the older noble seethes over the news of Sophia's marriage.
A violent crumple sounding as the man's gloved hand destroys the letter in his grasp.
Seated at his desk, the man turns his back, consumed by a dark, obsessive jealousy.
Within a dark aura, the villainous figure vows to reclaim Sophia for himself at any cost.
A cheerful, purple-haired chibi character appears, marking a playful transition at the chapter's end. Sunlight filters through the leaves as the black-haired Lucian prepares to depart on his horse.
Wait! Sophia rushes into the courtyard, her blonde hair trailing as she calls out to her husband. Reaching into a wicker basket, Sophia prepares a small gift to send with the departing Duke. Sophia offers a picnic basket for the journey, but Lucian coldly rejects her thoughtful gesture.
Undeterred, Sophia stuffs the food into his saddlebag, insisting he will need a snack later.
Chew! Sophia boldly kisses Lucian's cheek, leaving the red-eyed Duke stunned and flustered by her touch.
With a radiant and mischievous smile, Sophia wishes Lucian a safe trip.
Turning his head away, Lucian tries to hide a deep, telltale blush behind his gloved hand.
Waving energetically, Sophia promises to be waiting for his return while he rides toward the gate.
Sophia stretches her arms and yawns, feeling the exhaustion of her early morning farewell efforts. Looking down at the stone floor, the Duchess decides it is time to renovate the gloomy mansion. From the courtyard, Sophia watches the silhouette of her husband receding into the hazy morning light. Galloping away, Lucian reflects on Sophia's unexpected presence, surprised she woke up so early for him.
Focused on the path ahead, the black-haired Duke continues his journey alongside a heavy traveling carriage.
Lucian's profile remains stoic as he rides, though his thoughts linger on the blonde woman behind.
The Duke's figure grows smaller in the distance as he leaves the sprawling grounds of his estate.
Returning inside, Sophia and her maid Sarah assess the drab, uninviting interior of the grand manor.
A soft rustle sounding as Sophia observes the dark, oppressive atmosphere of the mansion's main hall.
Addressing the servants, Sophia orders a furniture merchant and gardener to begin the manor's transformation. Pointing with determination, Sophia explains her vision for a brighter, more peaceful home to the staff. Standing by the fountain, the Duchess imagines the garden overflowing with vibrant, life-affirming flowers. The butler and Sarah look on with admiration, promising to carry out her orders immediately. Walking through the halls, Sophia is accompanied by the brown-haired headmaid, Era. Pausing in her tracks, the elegant Ira expresses her deep, personal gratitude to the new Duchess. Ira is moved to tears by Sophia's dedication, while Sophia reaffirms her role as Lucian's wife. Dabbing her eyes, Era mentions she has served the Duke for a very long time. Sophia seizes the opportunity to ask the maid why Lucian has such a cold, distant personality. A flashback reveals a young, red-eyed Lucian standing beside the younger maid in the palace. Looking concerned, the young Era asks the boy what happened to cause such distress. Looking downcast, the young Lucian confesses that he accidentally caused an injury to his own brother. A memory flickers of the young, blonde crown prince clutching his bandaged neck as Ira watches. Placing a hand on the boy's shoulder, Ira reassures him that the prince will surely recover. With wide, fearful eyes, the young Lucian asks if his brother will grow to hate him. Ira attempts a comforting smile, though her own eyes betray a lingering sense of doubt. The young Duke-to-be looks away, his face already beginning to harden into a mask of guilt. Returning to the present, Era continues her somber tale, hinting at the fallout from the accident. Sophia listens intently, her heart aching for the trauma her husband endured as a small child. Ira explains that the Empress blamed Lucian for the injury and began treating him with cruelty. Looking sorrowful, the headmaid concludes that this rejection is why Lucian closed off his heart. Smiling gently, Ira expresses her sincere hope that Sophia is the one to finally melt his heart. Pumping her fists, Sophia enthusiastically declares her plan to bring light and joy back to the mansion. Swoosh! Changing into work clothes, Sophia tears down the heavy red curtains to let in the sun. The servants bustle about the room, hauling away old, dusty furniture under the Duchess's direction. Sophia points precisely where she wants the new, gold-trimmed sofa placed on the ornate rug. Crouching down, Sophia inspects a row of small, green, potted plants intended for the garden. Asking the gardener, Sophia is delighted to find that the estate already has lilies of the valley. Stepping firmly on the stone, Sophia envisions turning the entire courtyard into a field of white blossoms.
Sarah looks at the wagon of small plants, wondering if such simple flowers are too plain.
Sophia turns her head, her blue eyes sparkling with a specific personal reason for her choice.
Surrounded by a floral aura, Sophia smiles and keeps the special meaning of the lilies a secret.
In a sweet memory, the young, black-haired Lucian offers lilies to the young Sophia.
In a tender flashback, delicate hands gently press the small white flowers into the earth. Resting her head, the adult Sophia smiles fondly at the blooming lilies of the valley. A servant's desperate plea to leave echoes as Sophia sits peacefully in the sunlit garden. A terrified gasp sounding as the mustached Baron Duran forcefully pushes a maid aside. Pursuing his target, the unwelcome Baron approaches Sophia as she rests by the flower bed.
Startled by the intrusion, Sophia looks up with a wide-eyed expression of sudden worry.
With a predatory grin, Duran looms over her, declaring how much he missed her. A sharp gasp sounding as the Baron roughly seizes Sophia's wrist, ignoring her fear. Trapped in his shadows, Sophia's heart sinks as she recognizes the man from her past. Consumed by a dark obsession, Duran tightens his grip, his eyes reflecting his sinister intent.
A flashback reveals Duran's persistent and unwanted advances towards Sophia during her debutante ball.
Intervening with authority, the monocled butler Alfredo commands the Baron to release the Duchess.
Seething with irritation, Duran reaches into his coat, his expression hardening against the butler.
A firm, sudden grip sounding as a hand stops Duran's movements before he can react.
Undeterred by the interruption, the villainous Baron vows to take Sophia for himself regardless. Trembling and overwhelmed, the blonde Sophia whispers her growing fear of the persistent nobleman. Surrounded by a chilling aura, Sophia's silent prayer for rescue hangs in the heavy air. A metallic clinking sounding as Alfredo discards a bag of bribe money onto the floor. Duran sneers in rage at the butler, refusing to be handled by an insignificant servant. A sharp whistling wind sounding as the black-haired Lucian appears with a deadly, cold fury. Looking back with shock, Sophia sees her husband's red eyes burning with a protective rage. The terrifying image of the enraged Duke is vividly reflected in Sophia's wide blue eye. Humbled on the ground, Duran cowers as Lucian looms over him like a vengeful shadow. Alfredo welcomes his master back as Lucian threatens Duran for trespassing within his mansion. A sharp metallic ring sounding as Lucian levels his blade at the cowering Baron's throat. With a voice of ice, the Duke warns Duran that another approach means his death. Hurrying away with desperate threats, Duran flees the estate under the Duke's watchful red gaze. Still shaken, Sophia looks up at the imposing figure of the husband who just saved her. Wiping away a stray tear, Sophia watches Lucian, who clenches his hand in lingering frustration. With surprising tenderness, Lucian sweeps Sophia into his arms amidst a shower of flower petals. A soft heartbeat sounding as Lucian gruffly orders the blushing Sophia back to the mansion. Flustered by the sudden closeness, Sophia insists she can walk while Alfredo watches with interest. Standing amidst the courtyard, the loyal butler Alfredo observes the couple's complex, shifting dynamic. As Duran retreats into the distance, a sense of foreboding lingers over his true motives.
Months later, Lucian and Alfredo review documents, the memory of the intrusion still fresh.
Looking up from his desk, Lucian asks Alfredo for more details regarding the Baron Duran. Alfredo explains that the man is a merchant turned noble who has risen quickly through the ranks. Describing Duran as a vulgar opportunist, Alfredo warns that the man uses wealth for influence. Lucian listens intently, his stoic face masking the protective concern he feels for his wife. The next day, Alfredo watches Sophia from the doorway as she interacts with her maid. The butler wonders if Lucian's actions were a sincere attempt to protect the Duchess. Preparing for travel, Lucian orders Alfredo to remain vigilant and guard the mansion with care. Looking up with sincerity, Sophia offers a heartfelt thank you to the departing, red-eyed Duke. Clasping her hands, the blonde Duchess reflects on the genuine emotion behind her simple gratitude. Sophia's radiant smile causes a telltale blush to creep across Lucian's normally pale, stoic face. Turning away, Lucian coldly claims he only returned for a forgotten item, not for her. Despite his harsh words, Sophia remains undeterred, finding hidden warmth in his unexpected presence. Watching him leave, Sophia realizes the Duke's actions were more wonderful than his words suggested. Hidden from view, Lucian presses his hand to his face, unable to mask his embarrassment. Lucian prepares to depart, entrusting the mansion's affairs to the loyal butler Alfredo. Sophia gently suggests a garden stroll, but Lucian remains stoic and seemingly unmoved. Flustered and blushing, the black-haired Duke insists he is far too busy to stay. Sophia stubbornly imagines the horses are far too exhausted to carry him away yet. A firm, sudden grip sounding as Sophia's hands catch Lucian's to stop his retreat.
Lucian reacts with visible embarrassment to her persistence, telling her not to worry. The blonde Duchess offers a radiant, knowing smile that disarms his cold exterior.
A soft rustle sounding as the couple stands close together amidst blooming flowers.
Sophia playfully challenges the Duke to give up his resistance to her gentle company. Crimson-faced, Lucian admits his own persistence while sweating from this sheer social awkwardness.
Lucian finally yields, leading Sophia by the hand through the vibrant garden fields.
Sarah and Alfredo observe the tender moment, pleased by the couple's growing closeness.
Months pass, revealing the estate's garden transformed into a breathtaking, sun-drenched paradise. Sophia and Sarah admire the renovation, crediting the staff's hard work for the beauty.
Focused and determined, Sophia's blue eyes reflect her readiness for the next big project.
Reflecting on her goals, Sophia plans to win over the gossipy noble ladies. In a nearby room, a lonely, red-haired girl sits huddled upon her bed. Maids whisper about the Duchess's tea party while the red-haired girl watches quietly. The red-haired girl hunches over in sorrow, realizing she received no social invitation.
A soft clink sounding as Sarah helps Sophia arrange tables for the outdoor gathering.
Sarah presents different tablecloth options, asking the Duchess for her professional preference.
Sophia chooses the elegant lace design, admiring how gorgeous it will look.
Pitter-patter, Sarah hurries off to set the tables as Sophia stands ready nearby.
Determination burns in Sophia's gaze as she prepares for the social battle ahead. Looking back, Sophia reflects on the mansion's dark history and its recent transformation.
She remembers her former isolation when she was feared as the cold demon Duchess.
Sophia vows to win allies and find those responsible for framing her family.
A sense of vengeance lingers as she swears to expose the people who betrayed them. A soft tap sounding as Sarah returns, calling out to her mistress.
Sarah announces that it is nearly time for the highly anticipated garden tea party.
Clad in a magnificent white gown, Sophia looks every bit the perfect hostess. A rhythmic clip-clop sounding as ornate carriages arrive at the mansion's grand gates. Noblewomen arrive with curiosity, whispering about the Duchess's sudden change in character. The guests exchange surprised glances, taken aback by the mansion's new, welcoming atmosphere. Standing amidst yellow blossoms, Sophia greets her visitors with elegance and social grace. She warmly thanks the ladies for attending despite their busy and prestigious schedules. The guests gasp in wonder, marveling at the gazebo and the lush gardens. An exquisite spread of cakes and tea is served upon the fine lace tablecloth. A pink-haired guest praises the garden's beauty, finding the atmosphere incredibly peaceful. The ladies admire Sophia's dress, noting how perfectly it complements the floral setting.
Engaging in polite conversation, Sophia compliments the jewelry of her prestigious noble guests.
Two women whisper in surprise, finding the Duchess much lovelier than rumors suggested.
Wish, the garden splendor completely dispels the dark rumors of a ghost castle.
Sophia enjoys the company, sipping tea while the ladies chatter happily around her. A soft sip sounding as Sophia maintains her poise during the delicate interaction. Smiling radiantly, Sophia realizes her plan to change her reputation is working perfectly.
Clink, Sophia remembers the heavy chains of the terrifying future she is escaping.
A guest asks Sophia why she missed previous social events, causing a brief pause.
Taking a careful sip of tea, Sophia considers her answer with quiet, focused intensity.
The noblewomen discuss other tea parties, sharing gossip about specialties from the north.
Sophia sits at a sunlit table with her noble guests, agreeing to their pleasant conversation. The blue-haired woman and pink-haired guest exchange serious looks while discussing a mysterious person.
Sophia listens with a shocked expression as the guests mention a woman from the past. The brown-haired and pink-haired ladies look toward Sophia as they ask who she is discussing. The brown-haired lady nervously touches her neck while revealing the mysterious person is her sister.
A flashback shows a red-haired woman standing before a shattered, blood-stained mirror in a dark room.
The pink-haired guest mentions hearing a strange rumor, immediately catching the blonde Sophia's full attention.
The pink and brown-haired noblewomen look concerned while discussing the scandalous rumors in hushed tones. A dark, ominous flashback depicts the red-haired woman surrounded by shadowy and threatening figures. The red-haired woman's intense gaze reveals a large, jagged scar stretching across her pale cheek.
Gasping, the guests recount how the scar came from a violent fight with dangerous roughnecks.
Sophia's eyes widen as she suddenly recalls a vital piece of information from her past life.
Sophia remembers a letter from the Empress, realizing the red-haired sister's reputation is misunderstood.
The three noble guests look saddened as they discuss the heartbreak of the imperial family.
A soft tapping sounding as Sarah approaches the contemplative blonde Duchess during the outdoor gathering.
Sophia remains lost in thought while the staff continues serving the noble tea party guests.
Sarah looks puzzled, noting that all the invited guests should have already arrived at the mansion. Panic-stricken, Sarah announces that a lady without an invitation has appeared at the front gates. Sophia looks toward the gate with sudden surprise as a mysterious woman in tan approaches.
Standing amidst blooming roses, the red-haired Claire Montreux arrives with a cold, determined expression. The scene focuses on the vibrant roses surrounding the unexpected visitor at the mansion's entrance. Claire greets Sophia by her maiden name, prompting a confused correction from the blonde duchess. Confronting her directly, Claire identifies herself as the daughter of the high-ranking Duke Montreux. Sophia recognizes the name, asking if she is indeed the prestigious and powerful Duke's daughter. Smiling politely, Claire admits she wasn't invited, but expresses a bold desire to meet Sophia.
Sophia instructs Sarah to prepare a seat for the unexpected and high-status noble guest. A soft rustling sounding as Sophia leads Claire toward the garden's fountain and tea tables. Sophia apologizes for the lack of an invitation, feeling the weight of the social oversight. Walking through the lush garden, Claire admires the beautiful floral arrangements Sophia has carefully cultivated. An ominous shadow declares that Sophia will face the guillotine soon, signaling a hidden threat. Claire watches Sophia with a sinister smile, her gaze filled with a terrifying, unspoken malice. A sharp, sudden intake of breath as Sophia's eye reflects her growing panic and suspicion. Maintaining a facade of grace, Claire calmly sips her tea amidst the garden's blooming flowers. Claire calls out to Sophia, noticing her sudden withdrawal as they sit in the garden. Narrowing her eyes, Claire asks what happened, sensing the Duchess's internal turmoil and fear. Sophia stands frozen in a dark aura, desperately wondering what secrets this dangerous woman holds. A rhythmic thundering sounding as Lucien leads his men on horseback into a misty forest. Lucien orders his men to circle around the ridge, suspecting a trap within the valley. Looking out over the foggy landscape, Lucien's soldiers remain alert for any hidden ambushes. The black-haired Duke decides to take a different route alone to intercept their target. The loyal soldiers acknowledge the command, preparing to split their forces as Lucien ordered. The scene shifts deep into the quiet, fog-covered woods as the sun struggles to peek through. Lucien discovers a wounded man with silver hair kneeling amidst fallen, armored soldiers in the woods. With red eyes burning, the Duke observes the carnage left in the silver-haired man's wake. Clenching his bleeding shoulder, the silver-haired man sneers at the persistent devil Duke who found him. A metallic ringing sounding as Lucien draws his sword, looming over the cornered enemy target. The two men face off in the clearing, the tension rising before their inevitable clash. A sharp screeching sounding as birds scatter from the trees during the violent forest struggle. The scene transitions to the grand royal castle, where a formal and lavish dinner proceeds. Holding a glass of wine, the Baron Duran offers a cold, dismissive compliment regarding recent news. The king plots to involve Prince Elwin in negotiations for more enemy territory. Prince Elwin agrees to his father's scheme while dining with the red-haired Lilith. The king praises Lucien's military prowess and imperial blood during a quiet toast. The royal dinner continues as the king acknowledges Lucien's loyal service to the crown. Elwin remains quiet, his expression unreadable as the dinner conversation shifts. A soft scrape sounding as Lilith elegantly slices her meal, seemingly unfazed by politics. Focused on her task, Lilith continues her dinner with practiced grace and poise. Later, a rhythmic thud sounding as Elwin walks alone through the castle's opulent hallway. Elwin stops abruptly and turns, hearing a familiar voice calling out to him. Lucien appears among floral displays, having returned from his mission with a somber presence. The two men approach each other, the air between them thick with political weight. Lucien reports his capture of the enemy prince, suggesting a peace treaty instead. Taken aback, Elwin questions why a battlefield general is suddenly advocating for peace. Elwin considers the strategic benefits of seizing territory instead of accepting Lucien's proposal. He informs Lucien that their father's command is to take the land by force. Lucien simply accepts the decree, though a deeper plan flickers in his red eyes. He clarifies that he isn't abandoning territory, but has an alternative strategy in mind. Lucien proposes Elwin negotiate directly with captive Prince Cyric while he handles their father. They stand in the Grand Hall, two brothers debating the fate of the kingdom. Lucien reveals Cyric's terminal illness, rendering the captive prince a useless bargaining chip. A mental chess game plays out as Lucien considers how to best manipulate Cyric. He suggests a bold move, supporting Cyric's rebellion to gain total control. Elwin is impressed by the plan's cleverness, realizing the potential for absolute dominion. A sharp glint sounding as Elwin's gaze reflects his cold realization of Lucien's brilliance. The brothers reach an unspoken understanding, the tension of the conversation finally breaking. Lucien stares ahead, his mind already set on the next phase of his plan. Time passes in a blur as the scene shifts following the brothers' tense confrontation. Back in the study, Elwin reflects on Lucien's lack of interest in the crown. Doubts begin to plague Elwyn as he considers his brother's overwhelming power and skill. He confesses his insecurity to Lilith, fearing he couldn't stop a rebellion from Lucian.
Lilith reassures him, claiming he is the only one fit to lead the Empire.
Elwyn seeks further validation, still haunted by the idea of being overshadowed. He admits that Lucian's popularity with the common folk is a growing concern.
Lilith offers gentle comfort, noting that the prince must be exhausted from his worries.
She prepares a soothing tea to calm his nerves and refocus his ambition.
A soft clink sounding as the tea is served, the aroma filling the room.
Elwyn thanks Lilith for her unwavering support during his moment of weakness.
A rustle sounding as Elwyn pulls Lilith close, leaning on her for emotional strength.
They share a tender embrace, but Lilith's expression remains sharp and calculating.
Over his shoulder, Lilith's eyes reflect a cold, dark ambition that outweighs his own.
She envisions their future as supreme rulers, draped in gold and imperial glory. Lilith strokes his face, her touch both a comfort and a mark of possession. Her expression turns truly sinister as she vows to let nothing block her path. An oppressive shadow falls as she swears a silent oath to eliminate all obstacles. Standing alone, Lilith's presence is marred by a dark aura of vengeance and thorns.
A recruitment notice emphasizes the urgency of filling paid positions for the translation team.
A long creak sounding as Lucian finally returns home under the cover of night.
Holding a warm lantern, Sophia and her little dog wait patiently for him.
Sophia greets him with a soft, radiant smile that dispels the day's cold politics.
A soft tap sounding as Lucian walks toward his wife, the puppy trotting nearby.
Sophia holds a lantern as Lucian walks away into the dark mansion hallway.
Offering him warm soup, Sophia is rebuffed by Lucian's cold claim of having already eaten. A soft rustle sounding as Lucian turns his cold, red-eyed gaze away from her. Looking dejected, Sophia wishes her distant husband would stay for at least a few days.
Lucian reveals the tide of war has turned, signaling an unexpectedly early end to conflict.
Shocked, Sophia realizes the timeline is shifting differently than in her previous life. Her eyes widen as she considers the implications of this major historical deviation. Lost in thought, Sophia doesn't notice the Duke watching her with silent, intense curiosity. She ponders the sudden change, wondering what this means for her own future survival.
Sophia asks if he will remain at the estate, seeking some form of stability.
Lucian agrees to stay but makes it clear his presence isn't for her benefit.
Despite his coldness, Sophia responds with a radiant, undeterred smile that illuminates the dim hall. Lucian questions her persistence, asking if she would ever truly leave him in peace. A weary sigh sounding as the frustrated Duke rubs his forehead in total resignation.
Lucian finally yields, telling her to do as she pleases while she gleefully accepts.
Walking with Sarah, Sophia notes that Lucian's icy attitude is finally beginning to soften.
She excitedly explains that his permission allows her to dote on him without any restraint.
Sarah finds her lady's boundless optimism amusing as they navigate the mansion's grand halls. Sophia pauses, reflecting on how her second chance at life is changing everything.
A sudden realization strikes GB Sophia, leaving the pink-haired maid looking completely bewildered.
The next morning, Sophia greets Lucian with a bright smile amidst vibrant yellow flowers. Sophia peeks into the room, startling the Duke while he tries to dress himself. Calling his name, Sophia playfully chases Lucian through the mansion's sunlit, opulent corridors. Sophia brings a tray of tea to the office, much to Lucian's visible surprise. Looking overwhelmed, the Duke breaks a sweat as his persistent wife continues her doting. Lucian pours his frustration into intense physical training, pulling heavy chains under the sun.
A sharp whistling sounding as Lucian executes a series of powerful, focused sword strikes.
He stops abruptly, sensing a presence nearby during his rigorous and solitary workout.
Sophia tenderly wipes the sweat from his face, leaving the fierce Duke frozen in shock.
They finally share a formal meal together, the tension slowly melting into domestic normalcy.
Beaming with joy, Sophia tells Lucian how much she appreciates their time together. Lucian looks away, simply asking if she is satisfied with the meal provided.
A soft swish sounding as Lucian uses a napkin, a faint blush warming his cheek.
The couple spends a peaceful evening reading together on the plush library sofa.
Lucian's gaze drifts from his book, finding himself distracted by Sophia's calm presence.
Eventually, Sophia drifts off to sleep, her book still held loosely in her hands. Lucian stares at his sleeping wife, his red eyes softening with an unspoken tenderness. A dark memory flashes by, contrasting his violent past with this quiet, fragile moment. A gentle touch sounding as Lucian tentatively reaches out toward Sophia's sleeping form. He hesitates, his usual coldness warred by a growing affection he cannot yet name. Carefully, the Duke covers Sophia with a blanket to keep her warm while she rests. He lingers by her side, watching her peaceful expression with a complex, lingering gaze.
A quiet click sounding as Lucian leaves the room, allowing Sophia to sleep undisturbed.
In the garden, Lucian complains about her pestering despite his clearly softening heart. Sophia giggles to herself, delighted by her success in breaking through his icy shell. Walking together, she feels triumphant for finally wearing down the formidable demon Duke. Sophia asks if he recalls giving her lilies of the valley when they were children. A nostalgic vision of their younger selves appears as Lucian considers her sudden question.
Maintaining his stoic facade, Lucian flatly denies any memory of the childhood encounter.
Sophia smiles warmly, encouraging him to start making new memories with her right now. Lucian's piercing red eye focuses intently as he recalls a significant, distant memory. In a sun-drenched garden, Sophia reaches out to Lucian, cherishing a special, symbolic flower. Sophia beams with pure happiness, surrounded by the delicate beauty of lilies of the valley.
As Lucian reaches back, his hand falters when a sudden, urgent voice calls his name.
A harrowing vision of the past shows a blonde woman struggling against an armored knight.
Lucian remains stoic, his red-eyed gaze betraying nothing of the internal turmoil he feels. Standing in the courtyard, Lucian bluntly asks Sophia what she expects him to do.
Shadowed and distant, the Duke demands a clarification of her surprising and sudden words.
Lucian walks away into the sunlight, leaving Sophia standing alone with a bewildered expression.
The scene shifts to the towering, blue-roofed spires of the majestic royal castle. Inside the opulent dining hall, the king sits at the head of a long table. Prince Elwin sits beside a white-haired official, his expression serious as he awaits his father.
The stern king issues a firm command for Lucian to be summoned to court immediately.
Back at the estate, Sophia observes from behind as a messenger speaks with a servant. She wonders if the castle messenger brings urgent news that will take Lucian away. Anxious thoughts plague Sophia as she fears her husband is being called back to war.
Lucian suddenly appears behind her, questioning why she is standing still in the hallway.
Startled from her thoughts, Sophia quickly offers a bright, polite morning greeting to the Duke. Lucian ponders whether his brother's recent negotiations were successful or if trouble is brewing.
He concludes that he is being summoned and asks if Sophia is feeling unwell.
Lucian informs her of the trip to the castle, telling her to prepare herself immediately. Sophia is completely caught off guard, shocked that she's expected to accompany him. She stands in silent surprise, processing the sudden change in her quiet domestic routine.
The couple walks together through the grand, checkered hallway toward their carriage and destination.
Sophia's face lights up with sheer disbelief at the unexpected opportunity Lucian has granted. Seeing her joy, Lucian offers a rare, soft smile as she asks him to repeat himself. The two couples enter the throne room, approaching the king for a formal royal audience. From his throne, the king welcomes Lucian back to the heart of the imperial palace.
Lucian bows his head respectfully, expressing his deep honor at being called before his father.
Sophia stands poised in a magnificent black and gold gown, ready for the royal scrutiny.
The king praises Sophia, crediting her support for Lucian's recent and impressive military triumphs. Standing tall, Lucian confirms his father's assessment with a short and humble affirmative response.
Sophia curtsies elegantly, thanking the king for his incredibly kind and generous compliments.
Elwin and Lilith watch the exchange from a distance as the royal family gathers together. Prince Elwin and the red-haired Lilith remain silent observers during the formal palace proceedings. After the audience, the two women walk together across the vast patterned rugs of the hall. Lilith addresses Sophia with a polite smile, expressing her pleasure at finally meeting the Duchess.
Sophia considers her words carefully, noting that Lucian's absence on the battlefield was inevitable.
Lilith maintains a pleasant facade, her green eyes shimmering with a friendly yet calculated warmth. The red-haired woman invites Sophia to join her for a private tea in the garden.
Sophia accepts the invitation, and the two walk side by side through the palace's floral corridors.
They arrive at a beautiful garden gazebo, perfectly prepared for a sophisticated afternoon tea. The table is laden with exquisite pastries and tea, creating a scene of perfect luxury. Dread washes over Sophia as she realizes this moment is identical to her previous life. Memories of a terrifying incident from her past flash by, heightening her growing sense of alarm. She clenches her hands, determined to ensure that things turn out differently this time around. Lilith notices Sophia's sudden change in mood and approaches her with a look of concern.
She asks Sophia what is wrong, pointing out that the Duchess has suddenly turned pale.
Forcing a nervous smile, Sophia insists she is fine despite the cold sweat on her brow. Lilith watches her intently, her calm expression hiding whatever thoughts are crossing her mind. A glowing aura surrounds Lilith and Sophia's clasped hands as a new bond begins. Lilith holds Sophia's hands warmly, expressing her hope that the two can become close friends. Sophia looks on with a soft, surprised expression while the red-haired princess continues her friendly overture. A close-up of Sophia's eye reflects her realization that this scene is repeating her past. Lilith leans in with feigned concern, asking Sophia to share any worries weighing on her heart. Lilith recounts a specific incident from a recent tea party involving the daughter of a marquess. A dark silhouette of Lilith grinning looms over a vision of the past's tragic consequences. Lilith feigns total shock, gasping at the horrible rumors she claims to have heard recently. Lilith comforts the anxious Duchess, noting how scared Sophia must be after hearing such news.
The red-haired woman suggests that Sophia should stay at the castle if she ever feels unsafe.
Sophia politely declines, insisting she will be fine since the war has finally settled for now. Lilith maintains her pleasant facade, offering her help if anything should happen to Sophia later on.
The scene shifts back to the elegant stone arches and manicured gardens of the palace gazebo.
Lilith turns her back to the garden, calling out to her personal maid named Mary. A focus on the maid's footsteps as Lilith issues a secretive command to watch Claire Montreux. Mary bows low in obedience as the two royal women continue walking through the sunlit grounds. Shifting back to a pleasant tone, Lilith cheerfully invites Sophia to join her for some tea.
Sophia accepts with a bright smile, hiding her internal dread behind a mask of polite compliance.
Elsewhere, the blonde Elwyn and black-haired Lucian stand together, facing a mysterious long-haired man. A silver-haired man sits calmly on a sofa, awaiting the arrival of the two royal brothers. A heavy clatter is sounding as Elwyn and Lucian approach the silver-haired man for their clandestine meeting.
The silver-haired man looks up with a sly, knowing smile as the brothers enter the room.
Elwyn and Lucian stand before the man, their expressions grave as they begin their tense discussion. The man reflects on the irony of conspiring with his mortal enemy, the formidable demon Duke. Lucian remains silent and stoic, his intense red eyes fixed on the man seated before him. The man asks if he should address the Duke as Prince Lucian during their secret meeting. He looks toward the Duke, acknowledging him by the name Valenti instead of his royal title. Elwyn explains that Lucian has been using the name of his granted fief, the territory Valenti, a rhythmic topping sounding as the silver-haired man ponders Lucian's decision to cast aside royalty. Lucian walks forward, stating that he is a man who only understands the way of the sword.
A somber vision of a soldier's back emphasizes the heavy burden of lives Lucian must bear.
Standing on a battlefield, Lucian admits that governing citizens is beyond his current military capabilities. The silver-haired man skeptically asks if Lucian believes the crown prince can carry such a burden. Lucian looks away, confirming his unwavering belief in Elwyn's potential to lead the kingdom forward. The black-haired Duke remains resolute, his posture firm despite the weight of their dark conversation. A sudden thud sounding as the silver-haired man stands, his gaze shifting back to the prince. Elwyn is overcome with shame, reflecting on how he ever dared to doubt Lucian's deep loyalty. The three men gather around the low table to discuss the impending situation at the castle. Lucian demands an update on the current situation, his focus sharpening on their dangerous shared goal.
The silver-haired man reveals the king's impending death, suggesting a funeral will be their perfect cover.
Elwyn expresses concern over the Volgrant kingdom's secrecy, wondering how they will learn the funeral date.
The silver-haired man mentions his loyal spies within the castle who provide him with vital information. He begins to outline the infiltration route as the two brothers listen with grim, focused determination. Back in the palace, Lilith generously offers Sophia any of her beautiful and luxurious dresses. Lilith beams with happiness, expressing her joy that Sophia will be staying with them at court. Sophia explains that it was actually Lucian who insisted she stay behind at the royal castle. Lilith giggles playfully, teasing Sophia by suggesting the Duke must get lonely without her company. Sophia blushes furiously, stuttering in embarrassed denial as Lilith continues to laugh at her reaction. Overwhelmed by the suggestion, Sophia covers her burning cheeks while lost in a flurry of bashfulness. Lilith smiles warmly at the flustered Duchess, clearly enjoying the visible progress in their friendship. Lucian walks through the sunlit palace hallway as Lilith watches him from a distance. Lilith lets out a small exclamation of surprise while observing the stoic Duke.
Lilith addresses Lucian formally, and he acknowledges her royal status with cold politeness.
Lucian lowers his gaze respectfully, closing his eyes to offer a quick, stiff bow.
Footsteps click rhythmically on the carpeted floor as the two royals walk past each other.
Lilith pauses in the corridor, glancing back at Lucian with a contemplative and discerning expression. A sharp focus on Lilith's green eye reveals her calculating and deeply suspicious gaze. Lilith turns away and continues walking down the grand hallway, her cape billowing behind her. Sophia approaches Lucian with a hopeful smile, asking if he plans to rest soon. Lucian declines her suggestion, explaining that he intends to train with his soldiers instead. Sophia laughs at his stubbornness, while Lucian remains impassive despite her lighthearted and warm teasing. Lucian bluntly compares her to a nagging nanny, leaving Sophia momentarily stunned by his remark.
Sophia playfully reminds him that she is his wife, and Lucian finally offers a rare chuckle.
Sophia suddenly catches a scent in the air, prompting a curious reaction from her husband.
Sophia presents the perfume bottle gifted by the princess, noting its distinct and pleasant floral aroma.
Lucian inspects the bottle as Sophia comments on the surprisingly gentle nature of the fragrance. Lucian's eyes flash with sudden intensity as he firmly catches Sophia's wrist mid-sentence. Lucian issues a stern, urgent command for Sophia to wash off the perfume and never wear it.
A dark vision of the princess looms as Lucian expresses his mounting dread before a sudden knock sounds.
A sharp creak sounds as the door begins to swing open, drawing the couple's startled attention.
A maid enters the room to announce that a messenger has arrived with news for Sophia.
Sophia stares at the sealed envelope on the tray, wondering about the sender's identity and intent.
Sophia is visibly shaken to find a letter from Claire Montreux, a figure from her past.
Memories of Claire flood Sophia's mind as she grapples with her lingering distrust and growing unease. A vision of the red-haired Claire looking over her shoulder heightens the tension of the moment. Lucian steps forward and takes the letter from Sophia to examine it for any hidden dangers.
Sophia watches anxiously as Lucian reads, wondering if his silence stems from a shared secret.
Sophia confides in Lucian about Claire's previous insults, while a dark mist represents her internal turmoil.
In the palace garden, Lilith and Sophia discuss Claire's invitation to attend a popular play together.
Lilith suggests that Sophia might have misheard Claire's previous comments, feigning a helpful and concerned air.
Lilith reveals she had Claire investigated, claiming the woman harbors secret feelings for the formidable Duke. Sophia gasps in shock at the revelation, her eyes widening at the thought of a hidden rival. Lilith dismisses Claire's past behavior as mere jealousy, while a vision of Claire's distress flashes by. Sophia remains silent, processing the possibility that jealousy motivated the harsh words she received earlier. Lilith reassures Sophia that she is under no obligation to forgive Claire or attend the play. Despite the princess's reassurances, Sophia feels a lingering sense of duty and curiosity about the invitation. Sophia resolves to go, hoping to find a vital clue amidst the potential trap Claire has set. Sophia forces a bright, polite smile as she thanks Lilith for her seemingly kind and thoughtful advice. Sophia expresses her interest in the play's popularity, masking her true intentions behind a cheerful facade. Lilith smiles warmly, asking Sophia to share her thoughts on the performance after they have attended. A firm squeeze sounding as Lilith takes Sophia's hands, her gaze turning cold and intensely possessive.
Sophia winces in pain and points out the princess's excessive grip, breaking the tense, silent moment.
Lilith quickly releases her and apologizes, feigning shock as if unaware of her own surprising strength. Later, Sophia sits at her desk and carefully pens a reply to Claire Montreux's mysterious letter. Sophia hands the finished response to her maid, instructing her to have it delivered immediately. Before the maid leaves, Sophia asks for Lucian's current location within the vast royal castle grounds. The maid provides the requested information, and Sophia dismisses her with a polite and quiet thanks. Sophia stands alone in the room, her expression turning serious as she watches the maid depart. A rhythmic clock sounding as Sophia walks to the window, searching the horizon for her husband.
Sophia rests her hand against the glass, wishing she could inform Lucian of her impending meeting.
Sophia stares out the palace window as a rhythmic tapping sounds nearby. A curious exclamation escapes as Sophia spots someone moving through the distant doorway. Sophia leans over the balcony railing, wondering if the man below is her husband. The black-haired Lucian strides across the cobblestone courtyard flanked by his personal guards. Sophia urgently calls out to Lucian from her high perch, demanding his immediate attention. Lucian stops in his tracks, looking up toward the balcony with wide, surprised eyes. A cold sweat beads on Lucian's brow as he reacts to Sophia's public outburst. Sophia waves frantically from the sunlit balcony, her voice carrying across the palace grounds.
Lucian's soldiers whisper amongst themselves as their stoic leader blushes with intense embarrassment.
Lucian looks away, his expression a mix of concern and bashfulness over her display.
Sophia beams with innocent joy, completely oblivious to the commotion she has just caused. Lucian orders Sophia to stay put, promising to come to her room himself. Sophia tilts her head in confusion, struggling to hear his distant response from above. A rapid clack sounding as his boots strike the floor while he begins running. Lucian sprints through the grand hallway, his cape billowing as he rushes toward Sophia. Pausing at the door, the flustered Duke catches his breath, his cheeks still flushed. Sophia stands waiting in the center of the room, surprised by his lightning-fast arrival.
Lucian enters with an urgent look, the distance between them closing in an instant. Lucian scolds Sophia for shouting from the window like an unrefined commoner.
Lucian demands to know what was so important, catching Sophia off guard.
The Duke stands tall and imposing, awaiting his wife's explanation for her frantic call. Sophia mentions Claire's apology, prompting Lucien to question her willingness to trust an enemy.
Lucien harshly criticizes her naivety, asking if she truly believes Claire's sudden change of heart.
He bluntly calls her simple-minded, while Sophia defensively insists she has considered the risks.
Sophia stands stunned and hurt by his sharp tongue as he continues his lecture. Sophia's internal turmoil deepens as she realizes she cannot reveal her knowledge of their murder.
Sophia looks at her husband, the weight of her unspoken secrets creating a painful barrier. A heavy, silent tension fills the air as Sophia lowers her head in shame.
Sophia softly apologizes for her thoughtless behavior, her eyes filled with visible regret.
Lucien reaches out, his hand hovering near her face as his frustration softens into concern.
Sophia calls out his name, hoping to bridge the emotional distance between them. Lucien gazes down at her, his red eyes reflecting a deep and complicated sorrow.
A dark, foreboding mist swirls around them as Lucien utters a cryptic promise.
Sophia looks up in shock, her breath catching at the intensity of his words. Sophia pleads with him to stop, fearing the dark revelation he is about to share.
Lucien remains silent, his pained expression confirming the gravity of their dangerous situation.
Lucien wonders if his wife also remembers the tragic events of their previous life together. Sophia stands frozen in disbelief as the reality of Lucien's shared memory begins to settle.
Sophia trembles, asking for confirmation about the events of that fateful, secret day.
Lucien confirms he took her hand and ran that day, his expression deeply somber.
A spectral vision shows the two figures holding hands, running together in a past life.
Sophia clutches herself, acknowledging she could never forget that traumatic and pivotal moment.
A flashback shows Lucien's back during a war, recalling the most terrifying day of his life.
Lucien looks at Sophia with profound sadness, haunted by the memories of their shared tragedy.
Sophia asks why he is apologizing, her confusion growing as his regret deepens.
Stunned into silence, Sophia searches his face for answers she is almost afraid to find.
Lucien asks if she knows the true reason they were executed in their previous existence.
The Duke closes his eyes, his head trembling slightly as he faces his inner demons.
A dark, mocking silhouette appears as Lucien reflects on those who resent his very existence.
A purple poison bottle traps a weeping woman as Lucien admits Sophia died for being his wife. In a past vision, Sophia asks if Lucien tried to push her away for her safety.
Lucien admits he feared their tragic past would repeat if he did not intervene.
Sophia falls silent, the weight of their shared memories hanging heavily between them.
Lucien looks away in pain, still haunted by the tragedy of their previous life.
Sophia watches him with a soft, understanding gaze, her eyes reflecting deep affection. A soft clack sounding as Sophia takes a determined step closer to her husband.
Sophia reaches out to cradle Lucien's face, reminding him of his past promises.
Sophia gently asks him to repeat those heartfelt words once again for her.
A vision of fate swirling suggests a chance for the couple to change their destiny.
Sophia smiles brilliantly, encouraging Lord Lucien to share his true, hidden feelings. Lucien gazes down at her, his usual coldness melting into a look of tender longing. Lucien's hand trembles slightly as he prepares to bridge the emotional distance between them. Lucien pulls Sophia into a tight embrace, whispering a passionate confession of his love. Sophia closes her eyes and leans into him, finally finding peace in his arms.
Sophia insists they must protect one another rather than him bearing the burden alone. Placing a hand on his shoulder, Sophia vows they will find happiness together this time.
Flowers bloom around Sophia's hand, symbolizing the hope and renewal of their shared bond.
Amidst a backdrop of white lilies, Lucien and Sophia share a deep and romantic kiss.
A vibrant cluster of lilies sparkles, capturing the beauty of their newfound emotional connection.
The next morning, Lucien sits up, looking troubled while Sophia sleeps peacefully nearby.
Lucien gazes at his sleeping wife with lingering worry about the mounting external threats.
Lucien quietly slips out of bed, careful not to disturb Sophia's much-needed rest. A rhythmic tap sounding as Lucien walks across the room to examine the mysterious letter. Lucien stares at Claire's letter on the table, its purple seal a grim reminder. Lucien suspects Claire knows their secret just as Sophia wakes up and asks what's wrong. Sophia looks at him with concern, wondering if something is still troubling her husband.
A quick click sounding as Lucien turns back to face her, his expression carefully masked.
The morning light fills the room as Lucien paces, his footsteps echoing on the floor.
Lucien hands the envelope to Sophia, the letter from Claire now central to their discussion.
Sophia accepts the letter, her expression turning serious as she prepares to read it.
A vision of the red-haired Claire appears as Lucien warns of her potential hidden knowledge.
Lucian places a hand on Sophia's shoulder, his eyes searching hers for any lingering doubt.
A soft grab sounding as Sophia reaches for his hand, seeking a moment of reassurance. Sophia squeezes his hand, silently promising to face whatever Claire has planned by his side.
Looking up at him, Sophia offers a small, confident smile to ease his mounting anxiety. Sophia resolves to uncover any clues within the invitation to prevent their past tragedy.
Lucian asks about the play's schedule, his strategic mind already planning their next move.
Sophia confirms the performance is newly opened, her gaze steady and focused on the task. Sophia reassures him of her safety, noting the Empress's awareness and her own escape plan. Looking out at the grand theater, Lucian considers stationing his soldiers to ensure her protection. Sophia turns away with a pensive look, aware of the high stakes of her upcoming meeting.
A sharp tap sounding as Lucian finishes dressing, his resolve hardening for the day's challenges.
A butler with a mustache approaches Lucian, interrupting his thoughts with a formal inquiry. The butler delivers a message that the Crown Prince has summoned Lucian to his office.
Lucian reacts with surprise to the unexpected summons, his brow furrowed in sudden curiosity.
Lucian arrives to meet the blonde Crown Prince and his silver-haired advisor in the palace.
Standing tall in his formal attire, Lucian prepares to face the high-ranking royal officials.
A sharp focus on Lucian's red eye reveals his deep suspicion regarding the sudden meeting. Lucian reflects on a brother's strange negligence toward funeral preparations as a dark silhouette looms. A regal, jewel-encrusted crown sits on display, representing the heavy burden of royal authority.
Cold thoughts of death linger as a hand clenches the royal crown. The blonde crown prince and his advisor watch Lucian with hidden intent. A quiet acknowledgement marks Lucian's departure as he leaves the royal presence.
Carriages depart the palace grounds as a new morning dawns over the gardens.
Seated inside the carriage, Sophia's gaze remains fixed on the path ahead.
Lucian and his companions prepare for the journey within the plush carriage interior. High above, the red-haired Claire watches their departure with a cold, piercing gaze.
Claire whispers a sinister wish for Sophia's enjoyment behind the glass window.
A flash of intense fury consumes Claire as she reflects on her plans. The deep resonance of a bell sounding echoes throughout the grand cathedral towers. Soldiers and advisors gather in the solemn, blue-lit halls of the royal sanctuary.
The silver-haired man stands ready, his expression unreadable beneath the high arches.
A sudden, sharp shing sounding cuts through the heavy silence of the hall.
Panic erupts as a guard warns of an imminent enemy attack on their position.
Dust and chaos follow a rhythmic thud sounding as cavalry charges through the gates. Lucian and the silver-haired man mount their white horses, charging into the fray.
Leather creaks as Lucian's hand tightens its grip on the horse's reins.
A frantic thud sounding continues as they race toward the palace's innermost chamber. The two men gallop through the stone corridors, their capes billowing behind them. Determination flickers in the silver-haired man's eyes as they approach the end.
Hooves beat against the pavement with a rapid thud sounding during the desperate dash.
A lethal shishing sounding rings out as Lucian draws his blade for combat.
Blood sprays across the hall as Lucian effortlessly cuts down the opposing soldiers.
His white horse surges forward, its eyes wide with the intensity of battle.
They race across the bridge, the castle looming large as they reach their goal.
The scene blurs in a flash of speed as they penetrate the final defenses.
The silver-haired man questions Cedric's motives upon reaching the red-carpeted hall.
Tension peaks as the two silver-haired men face off amidst the fallen guards. Cedric extends a hand, pleading for a unified brotherhood to build the nation.
A dark aura surrounds Cedric as he spits out a single, mocking word.
The black-haired Lucian watches the confrontation unfold with a silent, watchful eye. Violence erupts with a sickening shing sounding as Cedric is brutally struck down. Pain flares as Cedric collapses to the ground with a final, agonizing cry.
Standing over the fallen man, the silver-haired companion calls Cedric's name in sorrow. Lucian observes as the silver-haired man raises his sword to end the conflict.
A wet splat sounding marks the finality of the execution as Lucian looks on.
Sword in hand, Lucian turns away from the carnage, his mission finally complete.
Shifting to a brighter memory, Sophia offers Lucian a charm she imbued with love. She presents a delicate lily-of-the-valley charm, a symbol of her protection.
Lucian and Sophia stand together in a field of flowers, sharing a quiet moment.
A soft "mmph" sounding escapes Sophia as Lucian playfully pinches her rosy cheek.
Lucian teases his wife, asking if she is truly embarrassed by her own gift.
Sophia pouts with a deep blush, her eyes narrowing at his lighthearted mockery.
The atmosphere softens as the couple shares a deep, passionate kiss among lilies.
Sophia's eyes widen in surprise as the intensity of the moment overwhelms her.
Flustered and gasping, Sophia stares at him, her face burning with sudden heat.
Lucian gazes at her with a tender, triumphant smile, enjoying her reaction. Turning slightly, Lucian looks back at her with a gaze filled with affection.
Sophia watches him go, her expression softening into a look of pure adoration.
Back in the present, Lucian holds the cherished charm, remembering her sweet promise.
A haunting farewell echoes through a void of shimmering light as a departure begins. Within the Grand Theater, a lone performer takes the stage before a captivated audience.
The auburn-haired actress delivers a tragic line about eternal love and rebirth across lifetimes. Moved to tears by the performance, Sophia's empathy contrasts with Claire's cold, calculating gaze. After the play, Sophia warmly thanks Claire for the invitation to such a moving performance.
Sophia reflects on the emotional weight of the story, her heart genuinely touched by the actors.
Smiling pleasantly, Claire suggests a backstage visit to meet the talented cast in person. Sophia hesitates at the unexpected offer, while Claire maintains a mask of friendly encouragement.
Claire claims the actors would value her feedback, leading Sophia toward the private corridors.
A sudden sense of unease washes over Sophia as she follows her companion deeper inside.
Suspicion flickers in Sophia's eyes as she questions the true motive behind this sudden detour. Claire leads the way to a heavy door, gesturing for Sophia to follow her inside.
Seeking to put her at ease, Claire offers a hollow reassurance against the mounting tension. A subtle, unsettling glint appears in Claire's eyes as her hidden agenda begins to unfold. The two women stand together, though Sophia's posture betrays her growing discomfort with the surroundings. A dark-haired man with a sharp gaze approaches them, inquiring about the identity of the guest.
Claire introduces her companion as the Duchess Valenti, catching Sophia off guard with the formal title.
Recovering her composure, Sophia offers a polite greeting and compliments the man on the production. The man expresses his delight at her visit, while Claire subtly commands him to show hospitality. Claire leaves Sophia in the man's care, her smile taking on a distinctly malicious edge.
Sophia is led down a shadowy passage, her anxiety peaking as the atmosphere grows darker.
Terror seizes Sophia as she realizes the man's presence is far more threatening than she imagined.
Purple smoke curls from an incense burner, revealing a room of debauchery hidden from public view. Blurred visions of illicit trysts flicker through the haze, exposing the theater's dark, secret underbelly. A fallen chalice spills its crimson contents across the floor, symbolizing the loss of innocence. Desperation kicks in as Sophia is urged further into the trap by the sinister guide. Sophia stops in her tracks, horrified by the sight of the scandalous parlor before her.
The man's face contorts into a predatory grin as he beckons Sophia into the room.
A sharp click sounding follows as the hand turns the latch to seal her fate. The full scale of the opiate den is revealed, filled with drugged nobles and intoxicating fumes. Stunned by the depravity, Sophia asks what kind of place they have brought her to. Revolted by the scene, Sophia condemns the indecency of the room and those within it.
Sophia declares her immediate departure, but a dark shadow looms behind her as escape is blocked.
Sudden panic flares as Sophia is firmly restrained, her true danger finally fully exposed.
Claire mocks Sophia's shock, claiming that the real entertainment is only just beginning for them.
Sophia vows silence to protect her reputation but warns Claire of the danger she is courting.
Expressing concern despite the betrayal, Sophia advises Claire to distance herself from such places. Claire reacts with mock pity, her expression hardening as she prepares to strike emotionally.
Sophia stands her ground, her gaze fixed on her former friend with a mix of fear and resolve.
Claire spits out a cruel accusation, mocking Sophia for stealing Lucian's heart while pretending to be pure. A violent scuffle ensues as the dark-haired man moves to physically restrain the struggling Duchess. Shouting in protest, Sophia is roughly handled as the trap closes in around her.
Sophia is thrown back, her hair disheveled as she loses her footing in the struggle.
Gasping for breath, Sophia looks up with wide, fearful eyes as she realizes her predicament.
The man looms over her with a terrifying smile, the purple smoke clouding her vision.
A cold touch against her face sends a shiver of pure dread through Sophia's body. Pinned down and helpless, Sophia pleads for mercy as the intoxicating fumes begin to take effect. A final, desperate cry for him to stay away rings out through the shadowy room.
Elsewhere, a message of success is delivered, confirming that a sinister plan is nearing completion.
The mustachioed butler coldly anticipates the Duke's downfall and the seizure of his vulnerable wife. The mustachioed man remarks on Claire's terrifying tactics as they stand in the room. Turning away, the red-haired Claire listens as the man addresses her as royalty. Holding a small bottle, the man declares he isn't picky about his cruel methods.
Claire smiles menacingly, vowing to eliminate any obstacle that stands in her way.
Shock registers on the man's face as a dark, ink-like splash clouds the scene. Sophia collapses amidst purple smoke, a desperate no sounding as she realizes her trap. A man looms over Sophia while Claire watches, ignoring her frantic pleas for help. Mentioning Lord Lucian, the red-haired woman gazes forward with a chillingly cold, unreadable expression. A sudden, sharp tsk sounding escapes Claire as she grits her teeth in mounting fury. Claire barks in order to move, roughly pushing aside the man restraining the Duchess. Snatching Sophia by her blonde hair, Claire declares her patience has finally reached its end. Claire reveals her original plan was to frame Sophia for adultery and execution. With a glowing eye, Claire vows to inflict a fate far worse than the guillotine. A brutal yank sounding follows as Claire's hand tightens painfully on Sophia's blonde hair. Sophia gasps in realization that Claire's previous apology letter was a calculated, treacherous lie. Mocking her victim, Claire laughs and calls Sophia an idiot for walking into the trap. Sophia questions why Claire is so determined to send her to such a grisly death. Claire screams that her motive is simple. She intends to reclaim Lord Lucian for herself. Claire demands Sophia return her husband, insisting she is the only one worthy of him. Sophia retorts that Lucian doesn't even know Claire, making her claims of theft impossible. Stunned into silence, the red-haired woman stares as Sophia's words pierce through her delusions. Claire remains speechless, her mouth slightly agape as the truth begins to sink in. Glaring down, Claire calls the Duchess an annoying woman, while Sophia struggles to stay conscious. Claire raises a candelabra, deciding that any place will serve as Sophia's final resting ground. A sinister glow illuminates Claire's face as she prepares to set the room ablaze. Sophia's eyes widen in horror as Claire ignites the curtains, causing her to cry fire.
Panic erupts as people flee the burning building while Sophia remains trapped in the smoke.
With a dark look, Claire pours a mysterious red liquid into the smoldering incense burner.
Thick purple smoke billows from the burner, filling the air with a paralyzing, sweet aroma.
Claire watches the spreading flames with a cruel smile, reveling in the chaos she created. The blonde Duchess lies helpless on the floor as the fire begins to consume the room.
Sophia realizes the incense has paralyzed her, leaving her unable to escape the encroaching heat.
Desperation fills her mind as she thinks of how she must somehow get away. A bittersweet memory of Lucian fades as Sophia faces her grim reality in the fire. A shadowy figure races through the burning theater in a desperate search for the Duchess. The fire rages with a deafening roar sounding as the building's interior is engulfed. Sophia's vision blurs as she fights to keep her eyes open amidst the thick smoke. The tragic scene ends abruptly, leaving the fate of the Duchess hanging in the balance. A system announcement appears, searching for new hands to help tell the unfolding story. Back at the manor, Lucian watches over Sophia as she sleeps in her quiet bed. The black-haired man remains silent, his expression weighted with deep concern and hidden guilt. A gentle brush sounding marks the moment Lucian tenderly moves a lock of Sophia's hair. Driven by a strange premonition, Lucian gallops through the night on his brown horse. Lucian's red eyes glow with an intense, burning determination to reach Sophia in time. He arrives at the theater to find people fleeing a massive sky-high inferno. Lucian watches as a man carries a woman away, his focus narrowing on the building. A frantic dash sounding echoes as Lucian shouts Sophia's name and runs toward the fire. Lucian charges into the crumbling hallway, his voice echoing through the smoke and falling debris. He finds her unconscious on the floor, calling her name once more in relief and fear. Lifting her gently, Lucian vows to get Sophia out of the burning theater immediately. Lucian carries the unconscious Sophia away from the raging theater inferno. With a grim expression, Lucian's red eyes burn with focus and determination. Reporters surround them, causing Lucian to wonder how they learned the news so fast. Sophia wakes up with a sudden sharp gasp sounding as she sits up in bed. Lucian asks if she is all right while Sophia struggles to find her breath. Told to rest, Sophia coughs and asks if time has failed to rewind. Lucian apologizes for the worsening situation, but Sophia thanks him for her safety. Sophia is stunned by the sudden news that Claire Montreux has been assassinated. Shocked into silence, the blonde Duchess stares ahead with wide, trembling eyes. A vision of Claire's death shows her throat pierced by a deadly assassin's arrow. Lucian explains that powerful figures wanted Claire silenced before she could talk. Sophia's hand grips the bedsheets with a sudden, tight rustle sounding in her distress. Lucian gazes at Sophia, his expression softening as he tries to comfort her. Placing a hand on her shoulder, Lucian urges her to focus on recovery. Sophia remains deeply unsettled, fearing that the danger hasn't truly passed them yet. Lucian remains confident, believing their enemies are currently panicking over their failed scheme.
Elsewhere, a red-haired woman sits at a lavish dinner table, lost in thought.
A blonde man in a white uniform joins her at the formal dining table.
The blonde man notes Lucian's absence from the castle while taking his seat. The red-haired woman suggests Lucian deserves a leave after his recent hard work.
She watches him closely, noting that Lucian must be worried about his wife.
The man inquires whether Sophia has finally regained consciousness after the theater fire. Claiming sisterly concern, the red-haired woman suggests bringing Sophia to her personal physician.
The blonde man questions her insistence, noting the castle already has a court physician. She justifies her request by citing her lifelong trust in her childhood doctor.
With a forced smile, she insults the local doctors to pressure her companion.
The blonde man stares back silently, his gaze weighing heavily on his dinner companion.
He firmly reminds her that Sophia is a royal wife and must be treated properly.
Suspicion clouds the man's mind as he asks why she is so fixated on this.
She feigns a close bond with Sophia, though her eyes betray a darker intent.
The blonde man rejects her proposal, arguing Sophia is safer in the Valenti territory.
With a sudden quick scrape sounding, the man stands and departs for a leading. The red-haired woman watches him go, her pleasant mask beginning to crack with anger.
She realizes her downfall is certain if Sophia wakes up and exposes her secrets. A dark shadow falls over her thoughts as she considers her next desperate move.
Days later, Sophia sits calmly in the manor, sipping tea in her morning gown.
Lucian enters the sunlit room, his presence immediately drawing the blonde duchess's attention. Sophia offers a gentle greeting, noting that her husband has finally arrived to see her.
A pile of discarded newspapers sits on the table, filled with scandalous headlines.
Sophia laments that even throwing away the papers cannot erase the dishonor she feels.
A brutal headline brands her a wicked duchess, blaming the fire on a romantic conflict.
Lucian stands tall and silent as Sophia regrets ever accepting the theater invitation.
Sophia worries about the impact these malicious rumors will have among other young ladies.
Lucian remains deep in thought, wondering how he can gather intelligence with their reputations tarnished.
The atmosphere remains tense and quiet while Sophia finds solace in her tea.
A servant suddenly interrupts, announcing that an unexpected visitor has arrived at the gates.
A blonde man stands in the doorway, his arrival surprising both Lucian and Sophia. Sophia stands up in shock as she recognizes the man who just entered.
Sophia asks why her brother has come. He tells her he has something to show.
The blonde man reaches out, holding a mysterious letter for them to see. A title card features the red-haired woman looking intensely ahead with glowing eyes. Lucian hands Sophia a letter, asking for her thoughts on its shocking contents.
The anonymous letter warns that Lucian and Sophia are in grave danger from someone close.
Sophia stares at the document in disbelief, her expression turning pale with worry. Sophia's blonde-haired brother explains that a mysterious peddler delivered the warning earlier that morning. Flashbacks reveal a small, cloaked figure entrusted the peddler with the letter near the castle. Lucian asks if the brother has any suspicion regarding who might have sent the warning. The blonde man remains troubled and silent, his red eyes reflecting deep internal conflict.
Sophia offers to prepare tea, hoping to soothe her brother after his long journey.
As Sophia departs, the two men remain in the room to discuss their next moves.
In the hallway, a maid and a small black puppy accompany the blonde duchess.
Sophia reveals she took in the stray dog, which looks up at her with devotion.
The blonde man notes the dog's training and its necessity for Sophia's protection.
A sudden rhythmic pour sounding follows as tea is served and they discuss hiding in Volgrant.
Lucian remains skeptical, warning that the mountainous path or the letter itself could be a trap. He questions why they should trust an anonymous letter without any proof of its origin. The brother argues that danger is undeniably close following the recent life-threatening theater fire.
Sophia sits in somber silence, her hands tightly clenched as she processes the terrifying situation.
A dark premonition of her own death haunts her thoughts while she remains visibly shaken.
Sensing her fear, Lucian watches Sophia closely with an unreadable but focused expression. A sudden, firm squeeze sounding marks the moment Lucian takes her hand to offer silent comfort. Lucian's eyes glow with lethal intent as he declares they must eliminate their enemies. The blonde brother prepares to leave, urging the couple to reconsider their safety. A carriage pulls away from the Valenti manor, disappearing into the quiet morning light. Lucian suspects the blonde man knows more about the sender than he is letting on. Recalling a past collapse, Lucian wonders if the brother is manipulating events to frame him.
Sophia is stunned by Lucian's theory that her brother might have staged the entire incident.
Lucian explains that the brother's servants could have easily leaked his secret travel schedule. He reflects on his dark reputation as the Demon Duke while Sophia listens with concern. Lucian pulls his wife into a sudden protective embrace, seeking solace in her presence. Sophia leans into him, her face filled with love and relief amidst the mounting tension. He gazes down at her with a rare, tender smile, momentarily forgetting the external threats. A sudden, passionate kiss sounding follows as the couple shares a moment of intense connection. Glowing white flowers bloom in the background, symbolizing their enduring bond despite the danger. The scene shifts to the grand, moonlit towers of the imperial castle late at night. The blonde emperor sits alone at his desk, surrounded by piles of official documents. A sudden, sharp rustle sounding occurs as he places a paper down with a heavy heart.
A sudden, heavy slide sounding echoes as he opens a drawer to retrieve a secret document.
He realizes with grim certainty that the handwriting on the anonymous letter matches Elise's script.
The Emperor wonders why Elise would target Lucian and hold such a dangerous grudge. The red-haired woman appears on a title card, her cold gaze hinting at her schemes.
Shaken by his discovery, the blonde man prepares to leave his office for some air.
He informs his attendant that he needs a walk to clear his racing, troubled mind. A rhythmic clack sounding follows as the Emperor walks through the ornate, empty hallway.
He ponders if Elise's actions stem from a past grudge involving a woman named Lilith.
The Emperor continues through the castle, his face etched with worry for his sister's safety.
He spots Baron Duran in the distance and wonders why the man is visiting so late.
A sudden, swift tap sounding follows as Elise hurries down the hallway in her gown.
Elise confronts the mustachioed man, warning him not to visit her so frequently in public.
Baron Duran apologizes to the red-haired woman, insisting he is there on urgent business. The red-haired woman looks visibly annoyed by her companion's unexpected and ill-timed visit.
Baron Duran explains he was an investor in the burned theater and plans reconstruction.
Elise dismisses his ambitions until he boldly asks her to provide additional project funding.
Stunned by his audacity, the red-haired woman stares at him in complete disbelief. The mustachioed man remains composed, waiting for her reaction to his aggressive demand. Elise reminds him that she has already paid him and Claire more than enough. Baron Duran argues that the theater fire was an unforeseen and very costly expense.
He suggests that turning the incident into a play would be highly profitable.
Elise is horrified as he notes the story would captivate the entire kingdom. Elise screams at the man, ordering him to stop talking such dangerous nonsense. Lost in thought, Elise realizes that Baron Duran is now openly threatening her position.
She decides she must eliminate the man first to protect her dark secrets.
Elsewhere, Sophia and Lucien walk through the palace, unaware they are being watched.
Elise watches them from the shadows, furious to see Sophia walking around happily.
She recalls with frustration that Sophia was supposed to be bedridden or dying.
Elise approaches the couple, her face contorted with a mixture of anger and shock. The blonde duchess is startled when Elise suddenly appears and calls her name. Clapping her hands, Elise puts on a fake smile to celebrate Sophia's recovery.
Sophia gently explains that she was finally able to get some much-needed rest.
Elise claims she was deeply worried, her eyes hiding her true malicious intentions. Lucian stands firm, mentioning he has important matters to discuss with his wife. Elise suggests that waiting in her personal room might be a better idea. The atmosphere remains tense as Elise faces the couple in the grand palace hallway.
Lucian informs Elise that he and Sophia are invited to dine with the Emperor.
The red-haired woman is struck silent, her pleasant mask slipping with intense jealousy.
Sophia kindly promises to visit Elise another time before they depart together.
Elise waves them away, though her smile is clearly forced and deeply strained.
Left alone, Elise is consumed by rage because she wasn't invited to dinner. Inside his office, the blonde emperor focuses intently on his pile of official paperwork. A sudden, rhythmic click sounding startles the emperor as he works at his desk.
He looks up in surprise, wondering if Lilith has come to visit him again.
Elise enters with a troubled expression, her green eyes filled with hidden, mounting worry.
The emperor asks what is wrong as he approaches the distressed red-haired woman.
Elise rants about the unfairness of the emperor's exclusive and private dinner invitation. She recalls Lucian's battlefield successes and the rewards he received from their father. A sudden, sharp top sounding marks the moment Elise stops to face her brother. Elise confronts the emperor, complaining about the special treatment Lucian constantly receives. She asks why she and her companions were excluded from his private dinner. Elise suggests the emperor intends to make Lucian the next heir to the throne.
The emperor dismisses her concerns, reminding her that Lucian renounced his claim.
Elise remains skeptical, questioning if her brother truly trusts Lucian's humble intentions.
She compares Lucian to Prince Cedric, calling them both dangerous battlefield threats.
Elise envisions Lucian sharpening his lethal skills while away from the castle's influence.
The emperor shouts in frustration, asking what his sister is trying to imply. Elise clings to the emperor, urging him to protect their royal position together.
A mysterious letter warns that the threat to the Valenti couple is nearby.
A sudden, firm stomp sounding occurs as a foot halts during the tense encounter.
The emperor looks sternly at his sister while she stares back at him defiantly. Holding the letter, the emperor asks if Lilith is responsible for this warning.
Elise fears that if Sophia bears Lucian's child, her plans will be ruined.
A sudden, sharp tug sounding follows as hands grab a lock of red hair. The emperor asks if the letter is Elise's doing while she watches him smugly. He questions if Lilith sent the message as the red-haired woman offers a cryptic smile. Elise reads the secret document, her face contorted with a mixture of shock and anger. The Emperor points out that the sender's name is missing, questioning the letter's true origin.
Elise examines the script while the Emperor watches her with a look of deep suspicion.
He calls her Lilith, prompting a quick response from the startled red-haired woman.
Standing together, the Emperor declares that they must eliminate the threat to their throne.
Elise questions if his plan involves killing Lucien and Sophia despite their peaceful intentions.
She warns him that if Sophia bears a child first, public favor will turn.
Elise envisions a crowned Lucien seizing power, fueling the Emperor's fear of losing control.
The Emperor remains hesitant, arguing that taking their lives may be an extreme measure.
Elise embraces her brother, whispering that only he is capable of leading the empire.
She vows to protect his life to ensure the country remains under their royal command.
A cold, triumphant smile plays on Elise's lips as her brother falls for her manipulation.
Hiding her face, Elise's expression becomes one of pure, calculating malice against her enemies.
Relaxing in a rose-filled bath, Elise is attended to by a maid brushing her hair.
A sudden, sharp yelp sounding occurs as Elise screams at the maid for hurting her.
The terrified maid apologizes profusely while Elise glares at her with intense, cold anger.
A different maid takes over the task as Elise remains brooding in her flower-filled bath.
Elise reflects on how she has successfully manipulated the Emperor into following her lead.
She questions why her sister would interfere, recalling the distinctive handwriting on the letter.
A sudden, rhythmic squish sounding follows as Elise crushes a red rose petal in her hand. The scene transitions to a bright, sunny morning where light dances on vibrant green leaves. The grand imperial towers stand tall and majestic under the clear blue sky. A maid presents a pink dress to Sophia, preparing her for a rare public appearance.
The attendant suggests a brightly colored outfit to lift Sophia's mood and impress the people. Sophia smiles gently, deciding to trust her maid's judgment for the day's special attire.
Her expression turns somber for a moment as she listens to her maid's comforting words.
The maid urges Sophia not to worry about rumors, asserting that the people support her.
Sophia looks reassured by the kindness, though a hint of worry still clouds her eyes.
A sudden quick click sounding marks the moment Sophia takes a pink bottle from a box.
The ornate pink bottle gleams brilliantly, its silver floral patterns catching the light.
A sudden sharp crash sounding occurs as the bottle shatters, spilling pink liquid everywhere. Sophia stares at the mess in absolute shock, her face turning pale with sudden fear.
A terrifying vision of her own death on a green sofa haunts Sophia's racing thoughts.
Panicked, Sophia screams at her maid to stay away from the dangerous spilled substance. Lucien bursts into the room, urgently ordering the servants to open all the windows immediately.
Sophia is confused and startled by Lucien's sudden intrusion and his frantic protective behavior. A chilling realization hits Sophia as she recognizes the scent as the theater fire's source. Lucien identifies the spilled liquid as the same forbidden drug used in the theater disaster.
He directs the orange-haired maid to escort Sophia outside while he remains behind.
Examining the broken bottle, Lucien confirms it contains a highly dangerous and forbidden hallucinogen.
Sophia remembers with a happy smile the day Elise presented her with the lethal perfume.
Lucien is shaken, imagining the horror that would have unfolded if Sophia had used it.
He wonders if the Emperor was complicit in Elise's terrifying and murderous plot against them.
Sophia hands Lucien a mysterious envelope, her expression filled with mounting dread and confusion.
A flashback reveals a messenger delivering a secret, urgent summons from the Crown Prince. Sophia explains that her brother has requested a secret meeting and plans to leave tonight.
Sophia stares ahead in stunned disbelief as she processes her brother's shocking and unexpected request.
Lucien promises Sophia he will post guards around the manor for her protection. The couple shares a tender embrace as white flowers bloom beautifully around them.
Lucien reassures his wife, gently telling her not to worry about their dangerous situation.
He reminds Sophia of his solemn vow to protect her from any impending harm.
Sophia closes her eyes and leans into Lucien, finding comfort in his strong embrace.
The scene shifts to the city buildings standing silent under the vast night sky. Lucien and the blonde emperor meet secretly at a wooden table in a tavern.
Lucien presents a pink bottle, causing the Emperor to look on with deep concern.
Lucien explains that the bottle was a gift from Lilith intended for his wife. A sudden, soft pop sounding occurs as the bottle is opened, releasing dark vapor. Lucien looks up sharply, his expression turning serious as the suspicious substance is revealed.
The Emperor recoils in shock, nearly falling back as he processes the terrifying revelation.
Startled by the Emperor's reaction, Lucien watches him with a look of mounting worry.
The two men discuss the lethal implications of the mysterious, dark-vapored pink liquid.
Lucien identifies the scent as the same one used in the horrific theater fire. The Emperor realizes the substance is a banned hallucinogen maliciously gifted by his sister.
Lucien notes that such a cruel scheme is exactly what Lilith is capable of.
A look of grim realization crosses Lucian's face as he confronts his brother's knowledge. The Emperor claims he only discovered Lilith's treachery and scheme the previous day. He recalls Lilith's manipulation, realizing she has been plotting against them for a long time. The blonde Emperor stares at the pink bottle, contemplating the depth of his sister's betrayal. He explains the liquid is a drug designed to induce a state of temporary death. Flashback, a servant discovers the same lethal drug hidden inside Duchess Valenti's personal bag. The Emperor realizes the plan was for everyone to believe Lucian was actually dead. He envisions their execution, followed by Lilith's miraculous survival and seizure of the throne. Lilith's scenario would have made her the Empire's hero while securing her royal power. Lucian asks how the Emperor managed to uncover Lilith's secret plans so remarkably soon. The Emperor admits that even his foresight has its limits against such calculated malice. He questions why Lucian, his supposed enemy, is being so honest and revealing his hand. Lucian explains that no true brother could ever agree to murder his own younger sibling. Flashback, Prince Cedric strikes down the Emperor's brother to ruthlessly seize the imperial throne. The Emperor realizes he no longer has any reason to view Lucian as a threat. Mentioning his wife causes Lucian to blush, revealing his profound and sincere love. Lucian asserts Sophia's innocence, prompting the Emperor to vow to finally depose Lilith. He recalls Lilith claiming her cruel plans were necessary for their shared royal future. A sudden, soft rustle sounding occurs as the Emperor examines a pivotal, secret letter. He thinks back to Elise, Lilith's older sister, and his very first beloved fiancé. Flashback, Elise appears radiant and happy, surrounded by a garden of beautiful red roses. The Emperor remembers Elise was removed and replaced by Lilith due to suspicious rumors. A sudden, sharp inhale sounding follows as the Emperor is haunted by past betrayals. He suspects Lilith framed her own sister to steal the title of Crown Princess. Lilith's eyes gleam with malice as she celebrates her cold and successful manipulation. The scene shifts to an ornate room where the annulment of their engagement is discussed. Lucian and Sophia sit together, discussing the Emperor's tragic and pained history with Elise. Lucian notes that Elise's handwriting was instantly recognizable to the grieving, suspicious Emperor. Sophia realizes the Emperor may have distanced himself from Elise just to protect her. Sophia looks stunned, processing the tragic sacrifices made in the name of true protection. Lucian smiles sadly at Sophia, admitting his own protective plans ultimately failed her. Sophia blushes and smiles warmly, feeling a deep, renewed connection to her husband. They resolve to walk their difficult path together rather than living peaceful, separate lives. Cloaked figures exchange a bag of gold coins in the shadows for a life taken. The men depart into the dark alley, eager to celebrate their successful, murderous work. Reclining in bed, the red-haired woman stares into the darkness, unable to find any peace. She reflects on her deep unease, her sleepless night fueled by a haunting, lingering anxiety. Deciding to seek fresh air, she steps out of bed and onto the carpeted floor. The red-haired woman walks through the grand, dimly lit corridor toward the large balcony doors. Peering through the curtains, she is startled by a mysterious figure lurking in the garden. From the courtyard below, a hooded man looks up at the red-haired woman's high window. The man lowers his hood, revealing the blonde Emperor's serious face beneath the night sky. Recognizing her visitor as Lord Elwyn, the woman stares down in stunned and quiet disbelief. Elwyn speaks from below, but the distance and glass prevent her from hearing his words. She realizes he is attempting to communicate, though his message remains a frustrating, silent mystery. Standing at the open window, she looks down at the Emperor waiting in the dark courtyard. The woman reflexively covers the scar on her face, a physical reminder of her painful past. Elwyn answers a silent question with a firm, simple affirmation as he looks up at her. She worries that the light will reveal the jagged scar she has fought to keep hidden. Her green eye widens in the moonlight, focusing on the mark Lilith left on her skin. Lucian approaches the Emperor, questioning the identity of the mysterious woman watching from the window. Elsewhere, Lilith asks her maid, Mary, if the medicine was delivered to the Emperor as ordered. Seated regally, Lilith inquires about the Emperor's reaction while the nervous maid stands before her. Lilith contemplates the recent chaotic events, noting that the timing of her schemes is quite poor. She resolves to manipulate the Emperor further during their planned meeting the very next morning. Mary watches in silent horror, realizing Lilith is the true architect of the Empire's terrifying turmoil. A sudden soft rustle sounding occurs as Lilith places a possessive hand on her maid's shoulder. Lilith mocks Mary's growing guilt, reminding her that she is now deeply complicit in her crimes. Grabbing Mary's face, Lilith forces her to acknowledge the dangerous path they have walked together. Lilith whispers that Mary is no bystander, having provided the hallucinogen used in the recent disaster. A vision of Mary delivering the lethal pink bottle to Claire haunts the terrified maid's thoughts. Lilith reminds her that she also directed Casper's actions, sealing her fate as a true accomplice. Lilith smiles coldly, knowing no one would ever believe a servant's word over a royal's.
She envisions her control over the Emperor, believing her power can bend any truth to her.
Lilith feigns pity for the broken maid, her eyes gleaming with a predatory and malicious light.
She threatens Mary's family, painting a grim picture of their ruin if she chooses to disobey.
Terrified tears stream down Mary's face as she realizes the impossible trap Lilith has set.
Lilith tightens her grip, ordering the broken maid to follow her commands without any further hesitation.
Wearing a serene, false smile, Lilith enjoys the absolute dominance she holds over her terrified servant.
Mary stands frozen in fear, unable to defy the woman who holds her family's life hostage.
Lilith departs the room with a sudden heavy slam sounding as the massive double doors close. She orders Mary to prepare mourning clothes, anticipating her own sister's funeral in the near future.
A sudden soft click sounding follows as the doors lock, leaving the weeping maid completely alone.
In the quiet manner, Lucian wakes up to a sudden, quick knock sounding on his bedroom door.
He sits up beside the sleeping Sophia, wondering who would dare disturb them at such an hour.
A servant informs Lucian that the Crown Prince has arrived for an urgent and unexpected meeting.
Lucian and Sophia greet Elwyn, who is accompanied by a mysterious, masked woman with red hair.
The Emperor requests that they shelter the masked Elise to protect her from Lilith's murderous reach.
Elise clutches her green dress, her body language reflecting the trauma of the night's terrifying events.
She explains that an assassin targeted her, only to be intercepted by the Emperor's vigilant guards.
Elwyn admits his error in showing the letter to Lilith, necessitating this sudden, secret evacuation.
Lucian watches the masked Elise, acknowledging that Lilith will commit any atrocity to seize absolute power.
A flashback reveals Lilith's brutal betrayal, having maimed Elise to steal her rightful place as fiancé.
Elwyn reflects on his past mistake of accepting Lilith's lies without any realization.
Flashback, a dark, monstrous Lilith looms over Elise, framing her own innocent sister.
Even as a child, Lilith showed her cruelty by brutally tormenting her younger sibling.
Lilith's lack of remorse forced everyone around her to cater to her malicious whims.
Lucian and Sophia stand together, ready to face the looming threat of the princess.
The masked Elise refuses to flee, determined to stop Lilith from claiming more victims.
The group gathers to discuss setting a final, decisive trap for the treacherous princess.
Elise warns that Lilith is far more dangerous than any of them can imagine.
Lucian offers reassurance, noting they now have the strength of their combined allies.
A sudden, soft rustle sounding occurs as Sophia looks toward her husband with determination.
Sophia cherishes her current life, reflecting on the cold loneliness of her painful past.
A sudden, soft rustle sounding follows as Sophia vows to end Lilith's reign of terror.
Lucian declares his intent to handle the burden of this responsibility alone and protect them.
He resolves that he will be the one to finally bring Lilith to justice.
Elwyn cautions him, reminding the group that Lilith likely has many allies in the castle.
Lucian agrees, noting that Lilith's long-term success was only possible with secret, widespread support.
Flashback, Sophia and Elise recall a moment where no one dared to defend them.
Lucian emphasizes the need for caution, admitting he even prepared for Elwyn's potential betrayal.
A sudden, soft rustle sounding occurs as the group realizes the weight of their plan.
They agree that they must trap Lilith in a lie she cannot talk her way out of.
The blonde man reflects on his father's role before the previous emperor's role.
Cutting into his meal, he suggests the Harvest Festival banquet as the perfect setting.
Elise and Elwyn stand together, the tension of their secret alliance filling the room.
Though she wants to testify, Elise's trauma leaves her clenching her dress in fear.
Sophia reaches out, taking Elise's hands in a gesture of profound comfort and solidarity.
Elise admits her fear, but Sophia looks at her with deep empathy and understanding. Sophia reassures the trembling woman that she has already demonstrated immense and sufficient courage.
A vision of the letter she sent reminds Elise of the risk she already took.
Sophia gently urges her to focus on healing her heart rather than her lingering guilt.
The two women share a heartfelt hug, finding strength in their shared, difficult history.
Lucian watches the embrace, noticing the visible terror Elise still feels toward her sister.
Stepping away from the hug, Sophia speaks up with a sudden, bold realization.
Sophia announces she has a clever idea to trap Lilith during the upcoming festival. Flashback, Lilith sits peacefully in the garden, oblivious to the plot forming against her.
A sudden, quick step sounding follows as Lilith stands to greet the approaching Elwyn.
Lilith listens intently, her mask of innocence firmly in place as she greets him.
She looks visibly shaken as Elwyn mentions a formal notice regarding the princess.
A sudden, heavy thud sounding occurs as Lilith feigns grief over her sister's fate.
Elwyn reflects on how transparent Lilith's manipulative performance appears now that he knows.
He berates himself for failing to notice her true, malicious nature for so long. Elwyn tells the embracing Lilith that he has one final piece of critical news. Lilith smiles coldly to herself, seeing an opportunity to finally execute her lethal plan. The scene shifts to the Grand Castle, anticipating the night of the Harvest Festival. Lilith worries about the investigation into the drug and the risk to their scheme.
A sudden, soft rustle sounding occurs as Lilith realizes they could face the guillotine.
Elwyn confronts Lilith in the garden, questioning the extreme danger of her proposed actions. Lilith envisions framing Sophia by planting real poison inside her personal ornate bag.
Elwyn warns that acquiring poison is difficult, but Lilith remains arrogantly confident.
Elwyn wears a false, charming smile to keep Lilith from suspecting his growing distrust. A sudden, soft footfall sounding follows as Lilith departs, leaving Elwyn to his thoughts. Lilith looms over her nervous maid, Mary, who is visibly shaken by her presence. Lilith throws her head back and laughs hysterically, her scream echoing through the manor. Lilith smiles wickedly, noting that her mood has improved drastically following her dark resolution. Mary bows low as Lilith walks away, obediently accepting her lady's cruel and dangerous orders. Lilith commands Mary to plant the evidence inside Sophia's bag to frame her for murder. Mary, sweating with terror, stammers her affirmation of the princess's lethal and manipulative plan. Lilith departs, reflecting coldly on how her sister has finally been dealt with for good. Lilith envisions Sophia and Lucian's downfall, plotting to eliminate every obstacle after the festival. Lilith smiles toward the starry sky, feeling absolutely wonderful about the chaos she has sown. The scene shifts to the sunny garden, anticipating the Harvest Festival as a turning point. Lucian and Sophia walk together through the manor garden, surrounded by white lilies and sunshine. Sophia holds a branch of lilies, reflecting on how their situation has shifted dramatically. Sophia stops to face Lucian, the peaceful garden backdrop belying the weight of their conversation. Sophia recalls the intense loneliness of her past life where she had no true allies. Turning toward each other, Sophia and Lucian share a look of quiet, newfound understanding and tension. Lucian piteously asks Sophia why she never showed him love in their previous painful life. Sophia stares at Lucian, her blonde hair blowing in the wind as his question haunts her. The pair stands together in the vast garden, the distance between them closing at last. Lucian repeats his question, his pained expression revealing the deep scars of their shared past. Sophia looks back at him with a mix of surprise and sorrow as the truth unfolds. They stand alone in the sunlit garden, the silence stretching between them after his heavy confession. Lucian hesitates, struggling to find the right words to explain his past cold and distant behavior. Lucian insists that his lack of affection was never a choice he made willingly back then. Sophia admits she believed his coldness meant she was unworthy of being loved by anyone. A close-up reveals Sophia's realization that her own insecurities blinded her to the truth. Lucian explains he proposed only to protect her from the reach of the villainous Baron Duran. A sudden, soft gasp sounding occurs as Chibi Sophia and Lucian react in shock and confusion. Sophia realizes that Lord Elwyn and the manor servants have always cared deeply for her. Clasping her hands, Sophia is overwhelmed by the discovery that she was never truly alone. Lucian walks beside her, explaining the hidden motivations that kept them apart for so long. Sophia tells him firmly that he should have voiced his protective intentions instead of hiding them. Lucian looks away, admitting he feared his interference would only cause her more hatred. Sophia reaches out, her hand connecting with Lucian's as she speaks with sudden, gentle clarity.
They sit together on a bench, the wide garden reflecting the peace they finally share.
Walking together, Sophia mentions the time Lucian stopped visiting the castle during their youth. A flashback reveals a maid with 2 young children, highlighting the childhood trauma of their separation. Sophia notes the rumors that the Empress intentionally kept Lucian and the Crown Prince apart. Lucian confirms he hasn't spoken to his mother since that day, shocking the empathetic Sophia. Sophia recalls the dinner table, realizing the Empress never even looked at Lucian once. The brown-haired Empress sits coldly at the table, a stark reminder of Lucian's neglected childhood. Lucian explains he used sword training as an escape from the crushing loneliness of home. He admits his heart still feels tight when recalling the years spent struggling entirely alone. Sophia looks at him with deep compassion, seeing the broken boy beneath the strong man. A sudden, soft rustle sounding occurs as Sophia pulls Lucian into a warm, comforting hug. Lucian closes his eyes, finding solace in the embrace he has longed for his entire life. Sophia wonders why they couldn't have shared these feelings sooner, her head resting against him. A sudden, soft rustle sounding follows as the white lilies sway gently in the breeze.
They pull back slightly, the atmosphere filled with hope as they prepare for the festival.
Hugging again, the couple finds strength in each other as their shared fate begins to heal.
In the castle, Elwyn and Lilith share a false embrace while plotting their final lethal moves.
The blonde Elwyn asks if his strong language bothered Lilith, who expresses her relieved happiness.
Elwyn shares a look of determination with Lilith, promising a bright future for them both. Lilith calls Elwyn to her side in the royal chambers, her intentions veiled in shadows.
Lilith asks Elwyn if he successfully prepared the poison for their upcoming lethal scheme.
Elwyn hands over a small pink bottle, noting that Lucian previously confronted him about the drug.
Elwyn warns the red-haired woman to avoid recklessness as she holds the potent evidence.
A sudden, quick top sounding occurs as Elwyn takes the vial back to dispose of it.
Lilith asks if other problems remain, feeling immense relief that Elwyn does not blame her.
Elwyn reveals that Caspar Duran is handling the dirty work while blackmailing him for support.
Reassuring the nervous woman, Elwyn promises to settle everything before the Harvest Festival banquet.
Lilith smiles with a dark, hidden glee, sensing her plan is finally coming to fruition.
They share a close embrace, though Elwyn's eyes remain cold and calculating during the hug.
The scene shifts to the sunny castle grounds as the Grand Harvest Festival celebration begins.
Citizens and children laugh joyfully, celebrating the festival unaware of the dark plots within.
A hand places the small pink vial onto a table as Elwyn departs the room.
Caspar Duran looks back in shock as a dark-haired man confronts him in the sunset.
Lilith and the blonde Sophia share tea, the redhead feigning a pleasant, sisterly bond.
The castle glows at night as the long-awaited Harvest Festival banquet finally officially commences. The mustached emperor raises a glass of champagne to toast the prosperity of the empire. The royal family and their guests gather at the lavish banquet table for the feast.
A maid pours wine for the dark-haired Lucian as the formal dinner gets underway. Dark red wine fills a glass, shimmering under the bright light of the banquet hall.
The emperor and empress sit with royal poise, holding their wine glasses during the toast.
Lucian looks stoic and focused, prepared for the events that are about to unfold tonight. The emperor reflects on the long conflict finally reaching the best possible and peaceful resolution. He calls for a prayer for abundance before the guests partake in the earth's blessings.
Lucian and Sophia raise their glasses, the tension of their hidden plan mounting between them.
Lilith and Elwyn share a meaningful look, anticipating the final move in their dangerous game.
A sudden, pained sounding occurs as a guest reacts to a sudden, violent ailment.
A shout for Your Highness echoes through the hall as the festive mood shatters instantly.
A sudden, violent cough sounding follows as Elwyn collapses onto the table in front of Lilith. The emperor and empress stand in horror, realizing the prince has been poisoned during dinner.
Lilith cradles Elwyn's head, screaming for a doctor as she feigns a panicked, desperate performance.
The emperor stands over the table, demanding to know what has happened to his son.
Lilith claims she failed to stop him and reveals a threatening letter had previously arrived. The empress is visibly outraged, questioning why such a critical matter was never reported immediately. Lilith stammers that Elwyn insisted the threat was a joke as the doctor arrives quickly.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounding follows as Elwyn abruptly sits up, startling the horrified Lilith.
Elwyn apologizes to his parents, his sudden and calm recovery revealing the performance was staged.
The empress is confused and worried, asking her son how he could possibly be unharmed.
Elwyn sets his glass down, apologizing for showing such an unsightly and dramatic sight.
The emperor and empress wait in silence, shocked by Elwyn's sudden and healthy turnaround.
Lucian notes this is the first he's heard of any threatening letters, trapping Lilith.
Lilith stammers in a panic, insisting she definitely delivered the poison vial as planned.
A sudden, quick clink sounding occurs as a poison vial falls onto the carpeted floor.
Lilith freezes in terror, realizing the vial meant for Sophia's bag is now exposed. She looks back at Mary, noticing her maid is trembling with guilt and visible fear.
Lilith curses the useless woman, realizing her entire manipulative plan has just been completely upended.
Lucian asks Lilith if something at her feet has captured her sudden and terrified attention. Lilith stares at the vial Elwyn just retrieved, her mask of innocence shattered beyond repair. Holding the poison vial, the blonde Elwyn confronts the terrified red-haired Lilith.
Lucian and Sophia watch the confrontation, their expressions grim as the trap closes.
The emperor reacts with shock as the investigation begins at the banquet table.
Lilith trembles in horror, realizing her intent to plant the poison is exposed.
A close-up of Lilith's green eye reveals her pure terror and sudden realization.
Discussion regarding the unreported threatening letter continues as the group stands in tension.
Elwyn holds the pink vial out to Lucian, confirming the evidence of Lilith's scheme. A flashback reveals Lilith's dark intent as she poisoned the soup during the banquet.
Sophia shouts in alarm about the poison, pointing toward the lethal evidence. The mustached emperor bellows for everyone to remain still as chaos grips the hall. The emperor's command to search every guest's belongings echoes through the darkened hall.
Shouting with absolute authority, the Emperor demands immediate action to find the culprit.
Sophia reflects on her past life while vowing to finally trap Lilith this time.
Sophia's blue eyes and calm lips reveal her newfound strength and cold determination.
The banquet hall stands in tense silence as guards surround the various royal guests.
Lilith realizes Elwyn has betrayed her but desperately resolves to buy herself more time.
Looking at the redhead, Sophia knows there is no escape route left for her sister.
Elwyn walks with Lucien while Sophia watches the unfolding scene with a heavy heart.
Sophia and Lucien share a silent moment of understanding amid the escalating royal scandal.
A soft, knowing smile touches Sophia's lips as she watches her plan succeed.
Guards gossip in the corridor about the shocking attempt on the Crown Prince's life.
Maids whisper rumors about whether Sophia or Lucien was truly behind the poisoning attempt.
Lilith watches from the doorway as guards move to search the private chambers.
Mary the maid trembles with a bad feeling, realizing she must act quickly.
A sudden loud boom sounding occurs as guards burst into the room to investigate.
Guards thoroughly search the wardrobe, tossing dresses aside to find hidden evidence.
A guard discovers the hidden pink vial inside a wooden drawer, confirming their suspicions.
Lilith bites her thumb in a fit of nerves, fearing what they might find. Panicked thoughts race through Lilith's mind as she tries to fabricate a believable lie.
Lilith forces herself to stay calm and think as the search moves closer. Sophia and Lucien confront the panicked redhead as the banquet atmosphere turns deadly.
Lilith's green eyes widen in shock as her mask of innocence finally shatters completely.
Guards march through the palace halls with a sudden rhythmic stomp sounding on the floor. A knight kneels before the Emperor to report the discovery in the princess's dressing room.
Lilith feigns confusion, wondering aloud what could possibly be hidden in her own room.
The knight presents a black vial found among Lilith's belongings, shocking the onlookers.
Holding the black vial, the Emperor questions the presence of such a suspicious object.
The knight reveals the vial matches the scent from the Arsene Theater fire scene.
The Emperor reacts with a sharp, horrified gasp as the theater arson is linked.
The Emperor's voice booms with rage as he shouts Lilith's name across the room.
Lilith steps forward, nervously asking if the Emperor called for her in this moment.
Holding the ornate pink vial, the Emperor demands to know why Lilith had it.
Lilith stares at the evidence in stunned silence, surrounded by Lucien, Sophia, and Elwyn.
Sophia reflects on how she previously underestimated the sheer depth of Lilith's malice.
Lilith glares at her sister with a look of pure, unbridled hatred and desperation. Sophia meets Lilith's gaze with a stoic and cold profile, refusing to back down. A sudden, heavy thump sounding occurs in Sophia's chest as her plan reaches fruition.
Looking across the room, Sophia sees the Emperor finally exposing Lilith's many misdeeds.
Despite her success, Sophia feels a sudden wave of unease as Lucien watches her.
Lucien looks at the blonde woman with quiet concern, sensing her internal emotional turmoil.
Sophia looks on in silence, processing the heavy atmosphere of the banquet hall.
Sophia reflects on how a single word from Lucien provides her immense reassurance.
Lilith glares with burning resentment as Sophia remains stoic amid the dark blossoms.
The trio stands in a tense standoff under the grand hall's ornate chandeliers.
A sudden, sharp ha sounding escapes Lilith as she recoils from the brewing confrontation.
Elwyn presents the pink vial, his expression hardening as he confronts the evidence.
Lilith desperately denies the allegations, pleading her innocence to the Crown Prince.
Pure terror consumes Lilith's green eyes as she realizes her precarious position.
Lilith's thoughts turn dark, realizing no amount of lies can save her now.
Overwhelming betrayal washes over Lilith as she realizes Elwyn has completely sold her out. Elwyn declares the vial's contents must be analyzed, trapping Lilith in her own web.
The blonde prince warns Lilith that a forbidden substance will lead to formal interrogation.
Lilith shrieks that she is being framed, her voice cracking with desperate, hollow conviction. The Emperor listens in grave silence, his features etched with a father's deep disappointment.
Lilith attempts to maintain a mask of grace while facing the Emperor's heavy scrutiny.
Dread settles in as the Emperor refuses to let the poison scandal be ignored. Lilith collapses in a frantic, weeping mess, claiming total ignorance of the lethal poison. In a final outburst of rage, Lilith demands how they could dare suspect her.
Elwyn and the Emperor tower over the fallen woman with cold, unforgiving gazes.
The Emperor officially orders Lilith under surveillance until the full investigation is concluded. Walking away, the Emperor offers a brief, stern comfort that this won't last long. Lilith's profile remains shadowed, her inner malice beginning to stir beneath her defeat. She offers a soft, submissive response, finally yielding to the Emperor's iron command. The Emperor signals his guards as a soldier confirms his readiness for the task. Guards seize Lilith, pulling her away as she hangs her head in feigned shame. Sophia and Lucien watch the scene with grim satisfaction from the back of the hall. Lilith is escorted out, leaving a trail of whispers and shock in her wake.
Sophia sighs with relief, a sudden, soft exhale sounding as the immediate threat passes.
Lucian stands by Sophia's side, his presence a steady anchor in the palace's chaos.
Elwyn approaches the pair, his heavy, rhythmic stomp sounding on the carpeted floor. Lucian offers a brief, respectful nod toward the crown prince during the transition.
Elwyn returns the gesture, acknowledging the successful conclusion of their dangerous gambit. Lucian pulls Sophia into a gentle embrace, whispering that the ordeal is finally over.
Sophia looks up in surprise, realizing the full weight of the upcoming royal investigation.
A flashback reveals Lilith's silent rage as she calculates her next desperate move.
A close-up of Sophia's dress hem catches the light as she softly confirms her feelings.
Under blooming blossoms, Lucian promises a future of peace away from the palace's shadows.
Sophia clutches Lucian's chest, a sudden heavy thump sounding as she weeps with joy. A guard interrupts the moment, asking for a report on the night's chaotic events.
Lucian protectively holds the blonde woman, shielding her from further prying eyes.
Lucian dismisses Lilith's claim of pregnancy as a transparent and cheap stalling tactic.
Lilith remains on the floor, surrounded as the legality of her situation is debated.
Lilith smirks with hidden glee, counting on her pregnancy to delay the trial's justice.